All right, so it's live. It's just getting everything up to stream it.
Great. It looks like John Daly might be signed on as an attendee.
I'm just gonna let my dogs out real quick. Come on, babe.
Great. John, are you there? There you are.
John.
Good
Glasses
evening.
today.
Yeah, my ugly glasses.
You got a shoddy internet connection right now.
Never heard a thing you said.
Yep.
Good. Sorry, I'm just struggling with work and all these meetings, but
I
I'll do.
think that we're all a little goofy today.
Yeah, it's a little beat.
All right.
Not Pat.
Let's get started. Apologies to those of you in the audience. As with technology, it takes everyone a little bit of time, but here we are. It is 4:37, and I'd like to call the Select Board Workshop to order. This afternoon, early evening, our plan is to discuss two topics in our workshop, which is our committee liaisons, select board committee liaisons, as well as begin discussing our priorities and goals, or looking at our priorities and goals and just reevaluating what are those the right ones, and should we be adding, is there things that should come off the list, etc. We do have a hard stop at 5:30 for this workshop because we have interviews scheduled beginning at 5:30 for our committees. Roll call shows that select board member Rick Dolliver is currently absent. He did message me just a few minutes ago to say that something has come up and that he'd sign on as soon as possible. He wasn't sure if he'd make the workshop or not, but he said he would be able to sign on no later than 5:30. But he did say that I'd sent an email to the select board earlier this afternoon regarding committee appointments, and he said he was in agreement. So we'll see how that discussion goes. Also in attendance, besides our select board members, we have Pat Finnegan, our town manager, and Tom Orlando is here from the police department helping us out with the behind the scenes operations of Zoom. All right. So the first topic for our workshop is our select board liaison positions. And so I'm not sure if everyone has had a chance to check your emails because I sent it probably around 1 or so. Several, actually, probably over a month and a half ago, I'd sent an email saying, hey, let me know what committees you're interested in. And then we can see where there's overlap. And so I took what people were interested in, as well as just based off of what people have done in the past, and made some recommendations for us. So we'll go through the full list just so that we can get a full sense of where things are at, and then we can see if we're good with this or if there's any further conversation. I also tried to spread things out so no one person had 10 committees and another person only had 1 committee. All right, so our first committee, the Age Friendly Community Committee. So that is a committee that I was the only party to express interest in. Any conversation or thoughts regarding that?
I think you've been following that pretty well. I think you're a good fit for that spot, personally.
Okay. Next up was the Bike Ped Committee. Bob, I had put your name there because I think you've done it in the past, and you're a runner.
I have, but I'm kind of not really that interested in doing that
Okay.
anymore.
All right.
It's
That's
been a long
fine.
time. I was actually on the committee and.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who might be interested in being the liaison for that committee?
Before I say yes, I'd like to know why Bob didn't enjoy it.
No,
Is
it's
it
not that I,
personal?
no, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's a good group of people. They work really hard. The stuff they've done is amazing. It's just I would like to do something a little different, just something different.
Okay. John, do you want to throw your name in?
Pretty easy.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Gee.
I'll take it. If no one else wants it, I will be more happy to help that wonderful committee.
The next
Hey.
one is the Board of Assessment Review. John, I had put your name attached to this because you've also been involved with the Budget Review Committee, and town assessments there's the connection there. So that was the my rationale in thinking, but otherwise than that, there was no specifics as to.
John, I'll take it if you don't want it.
Lindsay, please take it. I would like to take it because it'd just be educational because I've never done that before, but I'll have other opportunities. So if you want it, please take it.
Yeah, they don't. I've gone through their trainings and they don't meet a lot. And I feel like if they did need one of us, I've been through their legal training, so I'm fine going on that because I would think I'm going to pull off some other ones. So that will be my makeup for it.
Okay.
Thank
Great. Budget Review Committee. John, this was the one that you said you definitely wanted to stay on, and no one else came forward wanting to be on that one. So are we good to go?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I know some people say that the budget committee, since it's elected positions, they don't need an advisor. But I think it's nice to have one. So unless anyone thinks differently, I will continue to do so. They barely ask for my help, and if I want to be available if they want help, advice, or guidance, or whatever.
Yeah, and I know that Jerry, there's always work to do together, particularly when it comes to getting, like we just did, getting to the budget approval, going through that approval process and just aligning ourselves around timeframes and timelines and whether or not we do it jointly or not, etc.
I'm not sure I can work with Jerry, but I'll try.
Okay. The next committee is one that
I was joking.
I'm moving along. The next committee is one that we haven't formed yet, but we've been talking about, and Pat has actually started to work on a draft purpose statement as well as membership, etc. And I think right now she's calling it the Buildings and Facilities Committee. So that was one that I had put my name down for. Thoughts?
No. If you change your mind, I do it, but that's okay. I'm good.
Okay. I'll put your name down there, Bob. And I think we all, even though there's an assigned liaison, I think any one of us can
Oh, yeah. So I'm okay.
help out. The one thing that I thought about, there were several committees, and not to say that particularly you and John can't, but
Yes.
I did think about longevity and the workload.
Right.
Another one that will come up is the comp plan, and thinking about that's more than a year's worth of work ahead, and who will be on the select board to hopefully continue on working with that group moving forward. So okay, the next one is the Charter Review Commission, and Rick is the only person who indicated being interested in being their liaison. Does that work for everyone? All right. Then we come to the comp plan. Actually, I shouldn't say this. Rick and I both, I had indicated I'd be interested in either the comp plan or the charter, but that I didn't feel like I could do both because they're both pretty big. And Rick had come forward saying he'd do the charter. So any further thoughts on the comp plan?
God bless it.
And again, that committee has yet to be formed. I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about that tonight. Pat has also begun drafting, her and her team have begun drafting the purpose, the membership, etc. I have it on our agenda to meet with the planning board in October. I'm waiting to decide if it's our first meeting or our second meeting in October because it depends on when our town attorney is available. Not necessarily to meet with us with the planning board, although she can be involved in the comp plan, but for other things that we're trying to work with her on. So long story short, I think we'll discuss it tonight as well as it'll be a continued discussion until we get to the place of officially forming the committee. All right, Conservation Commission. Oop, John?
I'm sorry, I just want to share because I don't want people to think I'm not interested. Just like this committee we just talked about, along with comprehensive plan, along with the bill needs, I'm definitely interested in both. But as you said, Heath, my term's up in 9 months, 3 days, 4 hours, and 6 minutes. No, I'm rounding off. But since my term's up, I don't want to leave anyone hanging. So I'm not going to volunteer for some of these committees that I think are fantastic for reasons you said, because I won't be around. I mean, I'll still be here, but I won't be on the board. So I don't want to leave them hanging and have someone to take over halfway through the progress. So that's why I'm not volunteer for certain committees, because I won't be here in 9 months, give or take.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on to Conservation Commission. Lindsay, you were the liaison last, and so I've left your name there.
It's fine. I mean, I don't know if
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't remember. Maybe Conservation was Madeline before.
Yes, you're
yeah.
correct, because I was on Marginal Way and Sustainability.
Yeah.
So my concern, well, okay, so I'm just going to come right out and say this and sort of skip ahead because this makes up for, this is going to talk about all three things. All three things start to get a little fuzzy together because there's so many similarities in those three that I'm so Conservation Committee, Marginal Way Committee, and Sustainability Committee. Those are the three that I'm on, as well as a couple others. But I am planning on asking not to be on the Sustainability Committee as the liaison. And so with that being said, I'm fine with taking Conservation Committee and Marginal Way. But I just wanted that to be known as we move down this list in case I know that a couple of you have been to several of the Sustainability Committee meetings, and I think that they could, with it being a new committee, somebody with maybe some more experience and background on getting committees set up would be better serving them.
Okay. So
Sorry to jump ahead, but I just wanted to.
That's okay. And sometimes it is, we need to look at the big picture, but
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is you're good with the Comprehensive Commission at this point.
Conservation Commission.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And anyone else? Did anyone else have interest in that?
If somebody else wants it, absolutely. I know, Bob, I feel like you go to some of their meetings.
I don't have a problem doing the Conservation Commission. At one time I was on that one too. So I've been on a lot of them over the last, over the years. So
Do you frequent their meetings?
if I was, I would, yes, but I don't as much as I used to.
I just don't, I'm like very worried about my capacity right now during this cycle and being able to be a good liaison for too many groups right now. I'm just trying to be realistic with my capabilities and not let any committees down in the event that they.
Because Lindsay, you said that you would like to be off of sustainability. Let's talk about that so that way we can figure out, I'm sure all of us are figuring out, okay, how much can I take on and juggle?
Yeah.
So before we go on, Lindsay, I'm just curious if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit. I know you said because they're just getting up and started, but are there other reasons?
To lead this,
because you were very passionate about the sustainability.
I'm still very passionate about it, and I still am very interested in attending their meetings when I can and things like that. But it is just launching, and I think that there's a lot of questions that surrounded getting. It's really more of my lack of experience in beginning a new committee and being a proper guidance for them, and it was probably at the time more demanding than I was able to do. And the committee ultimately began to fall apart. And so I want to take responsibility for that in the sense of stepping back and letting somebody else that I think could be more committed than me to help that group flourish. And when I can provide input in my background that I'm able to, but not to build and liaison the committee.
Okay. Bob, John, are either one of you interested in the sustainability committee?
I think that's another long-term situation where if they're going to get it started and then all of a sudden you leave, that's kind of not a good thing.
They're
Okay.
starting at ground, like the ground level right now, because the chair is gone, 2 other people left. Like it needs to be sort
They're
of,
forming all over again.
yeah.
Yeah. Before they even really had an opportunity.
They only
to
had
really-
like meetings, yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Conservation Commission. At this point, we have Lindsay or Bob. So
Well, that's why this conversation got started, I guess. Bob, I feel like if you feel like I'm not taking on very many. I want to keep Parks and Rec. I would be fine taking on Conservation Committee and Marginal Way, but I think that's my capacity, are those 3, to be honest with you guys.
that
and
work?
Board of Assessment Review.
Okay, so for now, I'm leaving Lindsay's name unless, Bob, you have a strong will or desire.
Bob,
All right.
Oh,
The Harbor Committee, Rick had been the one to express interest in this committee. Are we good with that?
yeah, was that Bob before?
yeah, it didn't last. It didn't. Yeah, that was me.
Oh,
Do you
Do you
still have interest, Bob?
Sure. I mean, yeah, obviously I still have interest in that. I mean, that's a committee. Again, I mean, I don't like to back out on a lot of things, but I mean, it's a short amount of time. If I get on some of these committees that need long-term commitment, I don't think it's fair to them. But as far as the Perkins Cove Committee, it's really, there's a lot of commitment there, but I think it's something that you can step into and say, you can give them some help at this point in time, and then it just rolls over and moves on. So for me, that wouldn't be a bad thing. Any committee like that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Pat, I have a question for you if you're listening, and that's just because I think it might end up being connected to this committee. And this is about the time that I think we would be hearing on that grant that we had applied for the Perkins Cove Bridge. Any word on that yet? She may have stepped away from her computer. Looks like Select Member Dollar has just joined us. Rick, just to catch you up briefly, there have been a couple.
I was listening.
Okay. Since the beginning?
Most of it. I had it on in the car and I just got back.
Okay. All right. So where we're at is discussing the Harbor Committee. You had been the one to express interest in that committee. But then we were just discussing that Bob was assigned to them last, and he's was saying he could continue on as well. But also acknowledging that we're at a point where, particularly for him and John, they have about 9 months left, give or take, before their terms are up. And they happen to be 2 members who will also be term limited, according to our town charter. So, Pat, I was just asking, and have we heard on the Perkins Cove Bridge grant by any chance?
We are supposed to hear this week, so
Okay.
we have not heard yet.
Not yet. All right.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. So, Rick or Bob, when it comes to Harbor Committee, any further thoughts on that?
I was the liaison my first term. Then I took a year off, and I guess maybe Bobby was the liaison. I'm fine either way. I mean,
Me too. Like I said, doesn't matter. I just think,
if he wants to continue to the end of his term, that's fine. And then we'll have to revisit it,
Okay.
or I'll take it now.
All right. Right now I'm putting Bob's name there, and then we'll see what it looks like as we get to the end. Heritage Museum Committee. This is one that I had just got started with, and so I left my name down, and unless somebody else has a significant interest. Okay, I've only attended one of their meetings, but I did enjoy it, so. Okay, Historic Preservation Commission. Rick, this was one that you had emailed me about, and at this point, you're the only one that I've heard. Anyone else have a strong interest in working with the Historic Preservation Commission? Okay. Marginal Way Committee. So Lindsay, I had left your name down there. I know I too am interested in this committee, but thinking about how we balance everything, and you were working with them prior. And it sounds
I mean,
like,
if you want it, you can have it. Like, I don't want to be skirting responsibilities here, but you are taking on a lot, so I don't want you to feel like overloaded. But maybe if I have questions or something, you and I can work together with them.
yeah. Anyone else have interest in working with the Marginal Way folks? Okay, we'll leave Lindsay's name there. Parks and Rec. So Lindsay, you were the liaison the last time, and I had left your name there.
That'd be great. I thoroughly enjoy that committee. Thank you.
Great. Is that good with everyone? Okay. Performing Arts Committee. No one had volunteered for this. And John, honestly, it was more of a matter of how to balance out everyone's workload. But if there's somebody else interested, or John, if you'd like to have it, I'm sure they'd love to have you.
You're on mute.
It's a great group. If no one else has a burning desire, I'll be more than happy to help them out. They're a great group. I'll be more than happy to.
Great.
Awesome.
All right. Planning Board. Bob, you have been the liaison the last time we did this, and so I had left your name there.
I might as well, yeah, continue. Might as well continue. I mean, I don't think personally they really, totally need it, but if they need any help, there's got to be somebody there that can speak up. I think they're doing a pretty decent job. So I don't mind sticking with that.
Great. Selfish Conservation. Rick, you had put your name down for that. We all good? Anyone else? Okay. So Sustainability Committee. I
Keith,
guess.
I think
Go
you
ahead.
I think
I
you
was just going to volunteer my name for it. So, okay. And Zoning Board of Appeals. Bob, I had put your name down there just because of your connection with Planning Board, et cetera, figuring there's some things, sometimes things
Give it a
cross
shot.
over there.
I'll give it a shot.
All right. Okay, sounds like we've got a good plan. So, Pat, I was wondering, is this something we have to vote on, or is the formality important, or can we just move on since it looks like we're all in agreement?
I don't remember voting on it.
Yeah, I think, it'd be good for you to vote on it in your meeting, just to formalize it. But I think this is great progress. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, so we'll put it on our agenda for the first meeting in October.
Okay.
But I think it sounds like everyone's good with the plan that we just discussed. Okay, so I think I want to use this opportunity to just say liaisons. We all kind of have different words for describing what our role is. I think the goal is you don't have to attend every single meeting, and it's that the hope is that you're attending some, and that there is a crossover connection between our committees and the select board. And there's a point of contact for a committee if they have a need or want to run something by us or want some advice. And the caveat there is we, as giving advice or input to the liaisons, should be representing the select board as a whole and not our individual opinion. And if it is something that the select board has discussed, then yes, you can bring forth yeah, here's the direction that the select board has discussed, or, what we're looking for. Or if we haven't discussed it, then the connection is to bring it back to the select board to ask us to weigh in so that it can be brought back to the committee, etc. And then I think, as Lindsay brought up, sometimes there's just logistical questions, or questions about forming a new committee, or Robert's Rules of Order, or those kind of things that can come up. And certainly I think we all have varying levels of experience and can answer those questions as we see needed. Is there anything else regarding liaison roles that we should discuss? Yeah, go ahead, John. You're on mute.
My take on a liaison, which may be right or wrong, but can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, my take on liaison has always been, right or wrong, that we're here if they need our assistance. We're not supposed to like jump in and, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that.
No.
They're supposed to really reach out to us, say, okay, we'd like you to attend this meeting because it's a subject X that I know is kind of divisive, and I don't want to push it forward as chairman of commission or board XY if I know the board's not going to support it. We don't want like committees going down this long path, doing all this work, then come to the board and say, no, the board has no interest. So that's always what I thought the liaison was, to say, listen, I see where you're going, but based on what I know about the board and conversations we had, in person and board meetings and executive session, I don't think the board would support that unless maybe you do this. So I always thought liaison was more to give them guidance when they ask for it and make sure they're not going down a crazy path that would never get support of the board or the residents. Right or wrong, that's how I always felt. So I just wanted to share that.
Yep, I think that's helpful as well. And again, if it's something that the board has weighed in on versus we just want to be careful that we're not representing our own individual viewpoint without it being the viewpoint that's been discussed as a whole board. Okay. All right. So let's transition to goals and priorities for us. And I'm going to jump to what is actually looks like it's number 7 looks like it's number 7, committees, because we're already talking about it. So this is from the last time the select board discussed goals and priorities, and I think the main conversation happened last December, if I remember correctly, November, December-ish. So number 7 talked about regular appointing our select board liaisons. So I think we just did that. But this next step is regularly reporting to the select board. So my question for you all is, how often do you think it would be good to put on particular committees and the liaisons give just any brief updates as to, hey, want to just communicate this is what sustainability committee is working on, or this is what this committee is working on? Any thoughts around how often we should be reporting out back to the full select board? Would quarterly work? Is that often enough, not often enough? Mr. Dolliver.
I think quarterly would work, but I don't think they have to come in front of the select board, can't they?
This is about us. So as liaisons, this is about us just reporting anything to the full select board.
I don't know.
And certainly if a committee wants to come, we certainly can schedule that as well.
I just don't know if it has to be verbally, or can we just send an email to the group and include it in the packet?
I think either or is fine with me, particularly if, there's no major updates. It's just, hey, these are the 3 things. Then I think it could be included in a written report rather than a verbal. That's fine with me. I think maybe leaving it up to each of you as liaisons, whether you want to report out verbally or submit something in writing. How does that sound? Bob, good. Lindsay?
Yeah, I think quarterly.
Oops, sorry.
Getting some feedback.
It's not on mine.
Oh, was it me?
Oh, I don't know. It's gone now. How did we, I know we had something in place at one point in time. I just don't know if it ever happened. Bob looks like he knows.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm just saying, in past, we've done a lot of different things, but in past, we actually would just, anything that a committee would like to share or with the board, if need be, then whoever was liaison would, make sure it's on the agenda, and you'd say, this is what the board is working, the committee's working on, this is what they'd like us to know what they're doing. And whenever that happens is kind of random, I guess. But we've done that in the past. We've done the,
If I remember correctly, this came out, and I think it was maybe Madeline and I felt the same way, just creating a regular opportunity to make sure that it's not a whole year that goes by before we really hear what bike ped committee is working on, et cetera.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll start with quarterly. We can obviously evaluate that, and the updates can either be in writing and included in the select board packet, or can be said verbally. So Pat and I will work to give, Pat, I'm saying you and I, to give you all a heads up so that it's not just a few days notice of, hey, we're putting this on the agenda, but maybe setting a date, a month in advance so that you all know it's coming. All right, under 7B was to launch the Sustainability Committee, so that has already happened. The next was to appoint members to the Age-Friendly Community Committee. We've started that committee and have begun appointing. D was to post agendas and minutes online and describing the descriptions for recruiting. Pat, John and I, when we meet weekly, have talked about updating our website, and Pat sent me an email earlier today. I just glanced at it, basically sort of saying, yeah, we want to sort of update each committee page with, hey, here's its purpose. Here's the membership makeup. Maybe even here's how to contact the chair. And any other pertinent information like minutes and whatnot, so that there's one go-to place for everyone to sort of get a sense of what is this committee about and what are they working on. And I think that's probably going to be a bit of a work in progress, but for me, would be an important priority for us and Pat to work together on moving forward.
Who'd be maintaining that?
Well, I do think, Pat, is it Jordan that works with our web designer, web company?
Yes. Yeah, currently Jordan does it, but people submit things to Jordan. So like as a committee is doing something, they would submit it to him and he would put that new information up.
Is it just you and me here tonight?
So it sounds like we should be maybe John, Pat, and I can flush it out a little bit further as to what we'd want for a format. We can bring it back to the select board to say, hey, here's what we're thinking. And then we can ask committees to work directly with Jordan to get the proper information, et cetera. Okay. And then the next one under committees was E, which is committee presentations at select board meetings. So we're starting off with workshops with our committees. And I think we just talked about getting the word out that if committees want to, we really want to hear from them on a regular basis, whether that's quarterly or twice a year, those kind of things. But to schedule, hey, you want to come to the select board meeting and give us an update, both as needed as well as maybe, I don't know, twice a year offering it. Any thoughts on that? Okay. All right. I have one thing I'd like to add under committees as a priority for us, and would like to get a sense if others think it should be a priority for us, particularly this year. We have a lot of committees. Lindsay, you mentioned earlier, there's some crossover and some interesting places. I think someone said that we have over, if we add up all our memberships, it's over 150 people that we need to volunteer for our committees. And the good part is some people volunteer for multiple committees, etc. I think it would be helpful if we take some time over the next year to really evaluate, are these the right committees that we need moving forward, and probably ties into the comp plan discussions. Are there opportunities should we be looking at merging some committees under a bigger umbrella and maybe having subcommittees with particular topics, etc.? And I would envision a process that involves the committees. It's not just us as select board members making that decision, but maybe over the next year we solicit some input from committee members and the committees themselves, and maybe some suggestions might come from them as to, yeah, we think we could form a good alliance with this other committee and merge together under one umbrella, etc. I think there's going to be some, we've just created the age-friendly community committee. We're talking about the building committee. I know somebody in the community has been talking to me and is hoping to come make a presentation to the select board around artists in our community and how to support them. And there's been several other discussions like a technology committee, etc. So is there interest in engaging in in some process over the next year that would evaluate our committees and either look to where can we merge and do we have the right committees moving forward? Or others, do you think that would be a good thing for us to do? John?
I think it'd be a great thing for us to do, and I like the fact you said bring the committees into it. I think we should definitely reach out to the chairman, at least, of each committee. If not, no, and they can reach out to their members and ask them to also consider it. Like you said, what do they do? They think they can join the committee. If we can get them to give that some thought and get some buy-in from them, it would help the whole process. But you're right, it's not just us. The committees have to agree. I know they can be territorial and maybe they don't want to, so we need to manage that. They may be territorial, not want to share, but we can manage that aspect of it. But I think we definitely have way too many committees for 4.2 square mile town with 900 residents year round. So I agree with you, Heath. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Any other thoughts regarding adding that to our priorities? Lindsay?
Yeah, I love it. I think that we've talked about this a couple of times. I think, John, you're spot on that there's going to be like some territorial stuff because I think when we've brought it up before, people were like, yeah, but my group does this and my group does, and I think that at a point in time, I have even gone in defense of that, but like, there's so many committees and there's been conversations about other committees being formed, and I don't think it's going to end there. And so if we don't start condensing, it's just going to be, well, and that's why I was asking who's going to be managing the website and making sure all the information, because that's a full-time job at this point with how many things are going on. And so if we don't start condensing that down, at least a couple, like, and there's obvious ones that you can't do that, and then there's obviously temporary-ish ones too. Charter Commission and Comprehensive probably, hopefully, won't always be committees, but I don't know. Yeah, I like it. I'm glad you brought it up. I hope that we can actually make something happen, even if it's just combining, like 4 committees or something. It's 4 less.
Okay. Pat, one thing I'm interested in is, and I don't know how other towns do this, in thinking about if there was more of a broader umbrella for a committee, and then there was a need for subcommittees underneath that broader committee, we appoint the members, but if they have a subcommittee, what if there are additional community members who might want to participate in a particular subcommittee? And I'm not sure this select board wants to approve every member of a subcommittee, so to speak. So as we move forward and continue this discussion, maybe gathering some information about how other towns handle that might be helpful for us.
Okay.
And Lindsay, I think that, and John, that may help with the territorial stuff if they know, okay, the work still exists and there is a subcommittee for it.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that would kind of include like maybe possibly renaming the umbrella and explaining that those same subcommittees that they already are under that one, and they just have one lead co-chair, right? So it's just restructuring what already exists. Okay.
I like that word, restructuring.
Restructuring.
Okay. All right. Anything else under committees that we should discuss? Okay, does anyone have a burning need to discuss any other items on this goal and priority list?
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yeah.
I think it's back to committees, but are we sure that all our committees are putting in their meeting minutes to the town? Because I'm looking here now and I'm sure the Conservation Commission had some meetings. We got some letters about the Boston land and stuff, but there's nothing there for meeting minutes. I'm going through all of them. There's no meeting minutes online. So are they getting them to Jordan or are we not getting them to Jordan? If we are getting them to Jordan, is it too much, so.
Pat, do you have a sense?
Gordon's on. He can probably answer you.
Do we have a sense? Are people sending them in, or do we need to remind committees that they need to send in their minutes to Jordan?
Yes, I think that committees do submit them, but they do need reminders from time to time. So we can certainly do that. And again, that's one of the good things for liaison to do. So now that we have liaisons, that will be helpful.
Okay.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, like right now, the OHPC, the last minutes updated are February 26, 2020. The last Conservation Commission are 2019.
Okay, so it sounds like we have some work to do. So I'll start off by putting out a reminder to the chairs to get their minutes submitted. And we'll try to get things caught up over the next month so that we're up to date. All right. Somebody have a burning, and it can be one of these 13 items that we talked about last December, or it can be a new item. Someone else have a place of interest that you'd like to talk about? Otherwise, I can offer something. All right. Oh, John, go ahead. You're on mute.
Actually, Chair, why don't you go first? I'm reviewing the list, but you go first. I
did go first. I started with committees.
Oh.
So if you have something, go ahead.
Well, maybe I was on the wrong page, and I apologize if I was, but when the title of today's agenda said Select Board Goal Priorities and Goals, I thought you were talking about the goals and priorities that the Select Board set on January 7th of 2020, as well as previous to that, November 12th, 2019, and I go previous and previous, but that's not important. So we had 13 or 14 goals.
Yes, that's what I'm working from.
I thought that's what we talked about. Okay, good. Yes. So I'm on the same page.
Yeah.
So I one thing that's always been a desire of mine, and Pat might appreciate this, is G. No, 2G as in good. Use of town land. We have a lot of town land. I think we need to all understand the town land we have. It's not a high priority, but I think it keeps getting like shoveled aside. And I personally wouldn't mind taking that one on myself to get the information and share with the board. Just, I don't know where I'm going with it, but we should at least know what we own for land. We own a lot of land. Last time I looked into it 10 years ago, we own like 40 parcels of land, maybe more.
Lindsay?
John, and if that is a direction that we get going on, I know that I think Elaine Cooper and somebody else were working on like mapping out all of that and have like all of the exact coordinates and how big the parcels are. And like, that's been like a huge undertaking that so I would definitely encourage you to, if you want to do that, like to check in with her and just see, she's got like piles of maps that she's been like drawing out. It's incredible. It's insane, but it's incredible.
Well, thank you very much. Elaine does a very thorough job in anything she does. So that's fantastic, actually. Thank you.
And I can't remember who she was working on with that, but it was a pretty intense project. So, and I think she's just getting wrapped up. It might have been something that crossed over with the planning, zoning. Pat's nodding her head, yes. So I would just make sure that everything is okay with looking that over for that reason.
John, I think that would be helpful information. I'm thinking about not only for us to have, but probably the comprehensive plan folks to have, as they're thinking about the next 10 or 20 years or whatever they look out to. But just really thinking about what direction do we want to move in moving forward, and how do we want to use our land, and is it being used to the best of its ability, and are there parcels that we want to keep as is? Are there things that we want to do differently moving forward, etc.?
Yes,
So I
thank
put
you.
your name down next to that.
Okay, and the only other thing, Chair, that you don't put my name next to, but you have willing to. Beautification, number 11. I've said this before, and I still believe it. From the center of town to the beach is not beautiful. It is not beautiful. It's the entranceway to the beach, and it's not beautiful. We talked about sidewalks, brick sidewalks on Beach Street. I think that's something I would like to see happen before my term ends, because I wish it happened 10 years ago. But
So I have a question for the board on that. When we met with the Parks and Recs Committee, underneath their purpose or mission, it talked about being responsible for the town's beautification. Is that a place that we want to ask that committee to really pay attention to and look into and give us some recommendations moving forward?
sure.
Lindsay?
I'd like to help with that because I think in a lot of ways, I think, John, you're right on that. I know that one of the things that you brought up last time we talked about this, though, you were sort of like dialed into private places like Key Bank and stuff like that. And I think that we have to stay away from private entities, because I don't know what I mean, maybe there can be conversations about how to encourage private entities to beautify their areas, but like, and I didn't mean to call out a business in particular, but it was just something that was brought up last time. And I just mean that whole stretch, not any particular business, but I just think we would need to know what we're allowed to do and what we're not in terms of requesting private entities to do anything, because some of the beautification really we can't do anything with as town officials. Yeah.
Well, and that's another Parks and Rec already partners with the Ogunquit Chamber on events. And so there could be some good crossover there. I don't know if the chamber would be interested in helping or supporting this, but it could be an ask moving forward, particularly if we think it would be helpful if it involves the business community.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So Lindsay, do you want to, as the liaison for Parks and Rec, do you want to sort of have some more conversations with them? And
yeah, the chair is Jason now, right? Because Michelle stepped down.
yes.
And do they have a vice chair? They just told us the other day, and I can't recall.
Ian Kaiser.
Yeah.
Ian, that's right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I can shoot them a message and see.
Okay. Any other, we have about 5 more minutes. So the one I want to talk about was comprehensive plan, but I'm open to, we'll continue this discussion. This won't be the only time we're having this discussion. Any other topics that when you look at this list and or other things? Okay. So starting at number one, we had talked about developing a vision statement. Is this something that we're interested in doing moving forward? And again, whether we want to develop it or if it's something that we ask the comprehensive plan committee to do as part of their work as they're thinking about the vision for forward. Or do we want to create the vision with public input, et cetera? And that way the comp plan has something to work from as they get started. Bob.
Chair, I like the latter that what you just said.
Okay.
To set up some sort of form of vision and allowing the public to take part in the vision that they see for the comprehensive plan. That'd be good. I like that.
All right. Any other thoughts on that one, on number one? Okay. Moving on to capital projects. So letter A is the municipal campus. So we've talked about developing that building facilities committee. And as I shared earlier, Pat is starting to draft something for us to consider. So that will be coming forward at a select board meeting sometime in the near future. Anything else? And I think it would be that committee that takes up the work around the campus plan. And certainly we're not in a position to spend money anytime in the near future, I don't think, but it's a good time to plan so that when we're in a better financial situation, we're ready to move, hopefully. Any thoughts on 2A? Further thoughts on 2A?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just hope that I don't know what Pat is putting together or thinking, but I would hope that I know in the past when they've done this type of thing, when they were talking about the campus, the campus situation, and in previous times we took on one step at a time. I would hope that we really talk about what the major priorities are as far as that goes. And for me, looking back 11 years ago, there's been talk about the police station from the very beginning. Their work situation there is really not a good working situation. Actually, it's a terrible working situation. And I would hope that would become a piece of that priority. I would also hope that in those priorities, we would think as a board or whoever, we would think about prioritizing it enough so that we don't burden the taxpayers. If this type of thing goes to the voters, we don't burden them with a giant amount at a time, where we do a little bit at a time and we work our way down the road, a 5-year plan or something like that, or a 10-year plan, where it actually doesn't burden the taxpayers all at once. And I think that was the issue before when they came out with the original information. It was a big chunk of money. And I think, working towards small things at a time, like the transfer station, the public works building, the bathrooms, that's been over, a 10-year, 11-year period or whatever it is, even longer than that. So I think that's not a bad idea. I don't need to talk anymore on that, I guess, but I would hope the police department would be a priority.
I'm glad you said that. I think that's some good thinking as we think about that committee starting and what are the priorities.
Right.
Okay. All right. John, I just want to acknowledge it is 5:29.
I'll be very quick. I agree with Bob completely. And I would put the police station on Route 1 if it was my decision. Brand new. But thank you.
Great. Okay. Before we go on, how about we just take a 2-minute break and we'll come back on for our interview. So it is 5:30. I'm going to call this workshop. I'm going to end this select board workshop, and we'll gather in 2 minutes to start our interviews of committee members.
So I can eat pretzels now.
Turn off your camera.
Pizza for me.
Oh.
And turn off your mic, Bob.
What? I won't do anything. Ay, ay, ay.
Tom, if you're listening, Mark Claremont is our first interviewee.
Got it. Yeah, I have. Is it the um yeah, the agenda on the website that's accurate, right?
Tom, if you're on, I'm noticing that Mark doesn't appear to be signed in unless we have somebody who's called in with a 617 number. I'm not sure if that's Mark Claremont or Steve Miller.
I'll allow them to talk if you want. We can try to sort that out.
Yeah.
So the person calling in with the 617 number ending in 545, you should be able to talk to us and tell us who you are if you're one of the applicants. Well, that was not successful.
I can see where it says talking permitted, but then it says microphone. The microphone is crossed off.
Yeah, so I asked to unmute. I don't know how that works when you call in, but
I'm not sure. So it looks like Sheldon is on. So let's start with, we can do our interview with him and maybe the others, Steve and Mark, sign on.
And when it's time, do you want him to be upgraded to a panelist or just elect?
Yeah, yeah, let's upgrade Sheldon right now. Yep.
All right.
Sheldon, you currently are upgraded to a panelist, so you're on the screen. We would love it if you can start your camera so we could see you. Tom, maybe you can request camera access. Sheldon, if you can hear us, oops. There we go. Although we can't see you. If you want to unmute, and let's just check your volume to make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes. We just can't see you. It looks like a bright white light. All right, Sheldon, thank you for joining us this evening. We have you down as applying for the Ogunquit Historic Preservation Committee. I'll kick things off with, could you just share with us why this is the committee that you're interested in?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been a resident seasonally of the town for over 40 years. And I've had the good fortune in my private life as an attorney and a former resident of Newton, Massachusetts, to have chaired the Newton Historical Commission for over 8 years back in the early 80s. And we had a successful run of dealing with things. And I've incorporated in the packet for you this evening a copy of a portion of a booklet that we produced for the Auburndale village of Newton, where I grew up. We had 13 villages, and as a commission, we went and inventoried all of what we considered historic buildings and wrote those pamphlets. The end result was they assisted the city in obtaining designation as an all-American city from the National Association of Municipalities, which resulted in grant money coming into the city to preserve older properties. I have a love for the town of Ogunquit, as I've been here for over 40 years, and I've recently retired and chosen to make this my permanent home. I am a registered voter here, and I have the feeling that I'd like to give back to the town somehow and assist. And I have some expertise in historic district work. I thought that might be helpful. And we could use that hopefully to build better feeling in the community and help preserve whatever good properties we have.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that overview, both of your experience and your thoughts for the future. Do we have questions from other select board members? John Daly?
Good evening, Sheldon. Thank you for volunteering to be on this committee. I've read what you submitted to the board. Very detailed. You're very experienced. You'd be a great asset to the Ogunquit Historical Preservation Committee, so thank you. My only question to you is, you know, you have great experience. Can you speak a little bit to your experience? How can I word this? Being diplomatic. It's one thing to know your stuff, another thing to sell it to other people and convince other people and get buy-in from other people. I assume you might have experience in that area as well, but can you talk to that a little bit? Specifically working with the planning board. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't understand why I can't raise the picture, but I apologize. My first job practicing law was as a municipal law officer in the city of Boston and representing some other smaller communities in Massachusetts. And I have a good feeling for the operations of a municipality. And I only hope that I can help make these few things that the Historic Commission does better. I noted that one of the jobs of the Historical Commission, Preservation Commission, is to give input sometimes to the planning board. This is something we did as a matter of course when I was on the Newton Historical Commission. And it was very helpful in accomplishing everybody's goals. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm happy to give more if you need.
Thank you.
Other questions? Lindsay Perry.
Hi, Sheldon. Thanks for applying. Obviously, you have a ton of background. I noted that on your application, you said you haven't been able to attend any of the meeting, or at least 2 of the meetings. Have you been able to view any of the meetings yet?
Well, the only meetings I really view are those of the 3 major boards, your board, the planning board, and the zoning board. I'm a religious watcher of the zoning board and the select board meetings. So no, I haven't seen the Historical Preservation Commission at work.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Sheldon, thank you so much for your time. And we do have appointments to the Ogunquit Historic Preservation Committee on our agenda for this evening, and your name's on the list for consideration.
Thank you. I would appreciate your consideration as a member.
Thank you again for taking the time to meet with us this evening. Tom, I'm looking at our attendee list and I don't see Mark Claremont or Steve Miller on the list.
Yeah, I'm working on trying to help to get Mark invited to the meeting right now. I have nothing on Steve.
Pat, were we able to connect with Steve to let him know about the time?
Cheryl did speak with him and confirmed.
Okay.
I just resent links to Mark, so hopefully he'll be joining any minute.
Okay, we can give him a couple minutes. And Tom, if we could move Sheldon back to the attendee list.
Mr. Chair, there's a telephone number there.
Yeah,
Is that not it?
we tried to, when Tom worked to unmute that telephone number to see if we could find out who it was, and we weren't successful.
Okay, sorry.
Pat, I don't know if you have the original applicants and if that phone number aligns with either one of them.
That's what I was trying to find, Mr. Chair. So I've been unsuccessful. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. Okay, whoever it is, they've signed off. So maybe they don't like us talking about their number.
Chair, I'm gonna run downstairs to get my charger for my computer. I'll be
right.
no more than 1 minute. No more than 1 minute.
Yeah, literally me too.
Hi, Mark. It's Pat Finnegan from the town of Ogunquit. Am I right?
Okay, I'm going to give them till 5:50 to sign on. If otherwise, we'll just take a break until 6 o'clock and reschedule them for another time.
I apologize.
Pat has just texted me that Mark is It's just connected with Mark and he is trying to sign on.
Tell Mark a rotary dial. So Bob, did you eat something?
He was chewing on something when he got on. Can't hear you, Bob. He must have been eating Cheez-Its.
I had some salami and a cucumber
That's good.
and some cheese.
Is that a
And
River Lily Farm cuke or what?
I'm sure it is. Yes, absolute.
I don't know. I think we had a frost last night. I think that's probably about the end of most stuff.
Yeah, it's a little chilly.
Yeah, but
We did. Yeah, we had a bit of a frost, but Phil's still up there at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, filling the old veggies up. I love
Yeah.
it.
He's
I
probably up
love
the night before. Vampire farmer.
it. Yes.
100%.
He was out at 10 o'clock with the lights on a few nights, and I'm like, I got just a kick out of that. It's amazing.
I let the dogs out at like 11 o'clock and I can hear his tractor going. I'm like, oh, I'm sure Bob really likes that.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
You guys are insane.
It's like rain on a tin roof. Puts me right to sleep.
Yeah, it's like a white noise.
It's better than hearing a Harley and music and everything else that I've listened to for a while.
Sometimes I
Nice.
can tell the difference between the Jake brake on the highway and the tractor. Like I have to like listen pretty closely. Because at night
Yeah.
you can hear the highway pretty badly. Oh, Mark's on.
Oh, there he is.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Welcome. If you're able to start your camera, Tom will send you an invite to start your camera. And Mark, if you can at minimum unmute yourself, then we can hear you. Actually, I think you're unmuted. So if you can talk, let's see if we can hear you. Looks like you're in your car. We are not able to hear you though.
Hmm. Oh God. Technology.
Mark, it looks like you're unmuted on our end.
Mark, if you could make sure you're not connected to Bluetooth, so that might be an issue, or plugged into your car any other way.
I'm not plugged into the car. It's just that I'm trying to get you guys on speaker. So,
We can hear you.
We can hear you now.
okay, I'm having a hard time hearing you. So, my apologies, guys. I didn't realize that this was tonight. So,
Okay,
but if you can hear me,
we can.
so
If
There
you
we
can hear me,
now I can hear. Now we're all set. I figured it out. Yep, technology technology solved.
thank you for joining us this evening. We can see about 3/4 of your face. There we go.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I didn't want to because I'm not really camera ready, but I'll do my best.
You look great.
Okay.
Let me kick things off with
Sure.
our first question. Can you just share with us why you're interested in serving on the Age-Friendly Community Committee?
Yes. So my interest came up a little bit because we were talking about housing options and different things for seniors in Ogunquit. And I've actually been involved with family members that have gone through a lot of things when it comes to senior issues. And one of the bigger challenges that I've seen with going through 3 people with nursing homes and dealing with lawyers and the types of things that happen with older people is that they often don't have the resources or know the resources that are available for them to be able to deal with what happens when you get older. Some things that I've been involved in, especially with actually 4 relatives, is dealing with making sure that their finances are taken care of, making sure they're not taken advantage of, dealing with nursing homes, dealing with loneliness, dealing with doctors, dealing with trusts. And all those types of things are very difficult that when people age, many people don't prepare, and then they don't have people who can help them. And the biggest thing is having someone who trust, who won't take advantage of you. Unfortunately, I had a family member who was extremely taken advantage of, and I caught it in time, and was able to change some things and make sure that their finances were completely drawn. So I've been actually very lucky to have a lot of wonderful older family members who have helped me, and consequently, because I don't have children, things like that, I've been involved in that quite a bit. When I heard what happened with the town of Ogunquit, and we were looking at where we would be doing housing, one of the things that I was concerned about is that if we, we'll have to look at the picture holistically, to make sure that we're affecting as many people as we can and have resources that are available for those who truly need it. So that was initially my reason for speaking out about a year ago. And then there was an ask of people who wanted to join a committee. And because I think I might be able to add some insight, that was the reason for my interest.
Great. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that. I have a follow-up. I know you talked about supporting seniors. Part of the goal of the age-friendly community committee is to think about people of all ages. And certainly it's nice, not every member has to have a passion for all ages, but it sounds like we have a number of people who are very interested in seniors. Any interest in your level about thinking about other ages, including our younger children and teenagers, et cetera?
I will admit that's not something that I didn't realize it would be the scope of this committee. It's not something that I wouldn't have an interest in. May not know this about me, but for 10 years, I ran a community theater that I did help develop from scratch. It involved getting grants and money, raising of stuff. I was its director. I was also on its board for 10 years. I left it solvent with $150,000 to be able to continue. It still continues to this day. My involvement started in 1996. And that involved dealing with multiple ages. So part of that charter was incorporating how we could pick shows that would involve people in all different levels of age, so that we'd have multiple levels of involvement. Kids would learn from adults. We used to have a program for ages between 7 and 17, and they would get a level of theater experience. The adults would have it, and then we'd bring them together and put together shows. I've worked with kids en masse, usually 20 to 30 at a time. If you guys have ever had the pleasure of auditioning Annie for 120 little girls, you'll understand children.
Thank you, and thank you for your honesty.
No problem.
Before I ask other select board members to weigh in with questions, for those of you who are just in the process of signing on for our 6 p.m. Select board meeting, we are still wrapping up our interviews that we started, our committee interviews that we started at 5:30. So just give us a couple minutes to wrap this up. Other select board members, do any of you have a question for Mark? John. You're on mute.
Okay, sorry. Hi, Mark. John Daly here. You already answered my question, Mark. You put in your application, you had a passion for this. And I was like, why would you have a passion for it? But you answered that question loud and clear. So thank you so much. I appreciate that you do have passion, and because it's intimate to you and it's personal to you. And that's important to be successful in this role. So So no, I didn't have a question, but you answered with your opening statement. So thank you very much. And I think you do great in this committee.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Bob?
Yeah, no, I don't really have a question, but again, like John said, just listening, I really didn't have to say anything. I had the same similar experiences that you have had, and I completely understand where you're coming from. And I think you would be an amazing piece to this whole this committee. I mean, I've had those very similar situations, and what you said is absolutely hit the nail on the head for me anyway. But I understand the passion.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you for taking the time to meet with us, even on short notice. And we have on our agenda tonight, actually you're under our consent agenda, being the only applicant left to appoint at this time, although I do understand we potentially have another new applicant, which is great. We can continue to fill the committee down the road. But just want to let you know that you'll be considered this evening.
Okay. And just before I leave you, just so you're aware, my interest has been ongoing since last year. And I want to learn a little bit about how other towns have handled this and the way that they've been able to marshal current resources to be able to great effect. I spent a lot of time looking at what Saco, for an example, has done as a town, as something that we may want to consider looking at as a template to be able to learn from other towns around us to be able to pull together resources. So just to give you a little bit of idea about some of the things that I've been doing since I put in my application last year. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark.
All right,
Okay, let's just take 1 minute and I have 6:02, so if we can get back at 6:04.
Hear that, Bob? 6:04, not 6:05.
I need till 6:05.
All right, I have 6:04. I'd like to get started. Even though I'm the only one at the moment. Hi, Pat. Hi, John.
I'm here, Heath. You're not alone.
Bob just joined too.
I beat you, John, but I just couldn't get it on. I was sitting right here.
You didn't beat me then. It doesn't count.
I think you
And
cheated.
And Diane probably helped you anyways. So it doesn't count.
No. I cannot tell a lie. Yes, she helps me. But I'm getting better. Not that I really want to.
Me too. And I don't want to either, but I'm getting better.
While we wait for Lindsay and Rick, I just want to notice that Steve Miller, I see that you're now on and you've raised your hand, but we do need to get started with our meeting. So we'll reschedule your interview for probably the first week in October is our next regular scheduled meeting. So apologize for that. Okay, looks like everyone's here. So I have 6:06 and I'd like to call the September 15th Ogunquit Select Board meeting to order. Roll call indicates that all select board members are present and so is our town manager, Pat Finnegan. On the line, we also have Tom Orlando helping us out with Zoom technology this evening.
Thanks, Tom.
Our first agenda item this evening is public comments. The select board welcomes public comments and questions about agenda items and town-related matters. We ask that people keep comments brief and to the point, under 3 minutes, as well as that your comments be respectful of the community we aspire. We also ask that if you have a complaint or concern, it may be most helpful if you also offer a solution or solutions. Please begin your comments by stating your name and your affiliation with Ogunquit, i.e. are you a resident, taxpayer, voter, business owner, etc., or state the town that you are from. I will also point out that we have public comment at the end of our meeting, and we are asking that people only comment once, either at the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting. And with that, Tom, do we have anyone who's raised their hand who would like to provide public comment?
Steve's hand's still up, so if he wants to provide comment, he can unmute now.
Stephen, if you'd like to make a comment during public comment, feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, so I'm assuming you don't want to make comment or maybe having some problems. All right. Looks like we have another hand raised, Tom, of Steve Weiner.
Steve, you can unmute. Looks like he put his hand down.
Might have been an accident. Steve, if you were looking to comment, just raise your hand again. I don't see any other hands raised. Do you, Tom?
Oh.
All right, I'm going to move us on to 3.0 of our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Are there any items in the consent agenda which select board members would like removed? Mr. Dolliver.
I'm just not sure because consent agenda is so new. I was not a select board member May, June, the May 21st, to June 16th to June 30th. So I don't know if you have to back those out. I'm not sure if I can vote on consent agenda if those are in there. I just don't know
Great.
the proper protocol there.
Great question. And Pat, I'm not sure. I've wondered in the past when people miss meetings, we tend to say they don't vote on it, but it is the expectation that if you miss a meeting, you still catch up. So you could still verify that the meeting minutes are accurate. And so I don't know if you know the answer to that, or maybe it's something we could look into further for the future.
I think Rick is going to answer
Mr.
that.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I would agree with I would agree with that statement if I was a select board member, but I wasn't. So to be quite honest, I did watch all those meetings and I have read those minutes, but I still wasn't a member at the time. So in this case,
yeah. So let's remove them. And is it okay with people if we put them on right after the presentations, proclamations, resolutions, and communications on our agenda? Okay, thank you. Any other agenda items that people would like to have removed for discussion? Okay, with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda excluding 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 on our agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion made by Select Member Dolliver. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Select Member Perry. Any discussion? Thank you. Technically, there's no discussion on consent agenda items. I'm just used to going in that order, so I'll do a roll call vote. Select Member Daly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Select Member Dolliver.
Yes.
Select Member Perry.
Yeah.
Select Member Wynn.
Yes.
All right, and I too am a yes. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you and congratulations to all those who have been appointed and or reappointed to your committees. I just want to acknowledge that Mark Claremont, congratulations. You're now a member of the Age Friendly Community Committee. Paul Jean, you have been reappointed to an alternate on the Bike Pedestrian Committee. Gary Littlefield, you have been reappointed to the Heritage Museum Committee. Marcia Northrup, you've been reappointed to the Historic Preservation Committee. And David Nosnick, you have been appointed to the Sustainability Committee. So congratulations to everyone. John?
I'm sorry, Pat, maybe you know more than I know, but Paul Jean told me he did not want to be on a committee anymore. I'm not sure if he changed his mind. He told me like 3 weeks ago. I'm not sure if it appointed him by default because he was on it previously or if he applied, but he told me he was not applying again.
Did
We just
the,
appointed him.
I will
Brittany?
double check. But I believe he wanted to stay on bike ped.
Okay. You probably know more than I know. Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't go that far, but I'll double check.
I'm sure you do. Just double check with him. That's all.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to 4.0 on our agenda, which is liquor and amusement licenses. We have up for renewal the malt spiritus and venomous. I can never say these words. The liquor license for Angelina's restaurant. And any discussion before I ask for a motion? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Angelina's Restaurante for their liquor license renewal?
So
So
moved.
moved.
I
Second.
heard Select Member Wynn for first. Perry, would you like to second?
Yeah.
All right, Perry for the second. And any discussion? All right. Select Member Daly, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right. Select Member Dolliver, how do you vote?
Yes.
Select Member Perry
Yes.
and Select Member Wynn.
Yes.
And I too am a yes vote. The motion passes. Karen, congratulations, David. This now moves us on to 5.0 of our agenda, which is presentations, proclamations, resolutions, and communications. 5.1 is the Rotary is here to discuss their 2-cent sale. We have George Wilson and Aaron Hay with us. George and Aaron, give Tom just a second and he'll move you up to panelist status. In the meantime, if you'd like to start your camera, we'll have you on camera if possible. By the way, John, I just want to clarify that I'm looking at, and I knew I saw this in our agenda packet when I reviewed it. It looks like Paul Jean did submit for renewal. It was received on August 17th. All right, Aaron and George, you are on. If you wouldn't mind starting your cameras, that would be helpful. Otherwise, if you could unmute yourselves and you take us away.
Can you hear us?
We can. There we go. And we can see you both too. Oh, George, we
Okay.
just lost you.
You did.
We can hear you. We just can't see you. There
Okay.
you are. Wonderful. Welcome. George and Aaron are here with us from the Ogunquit Rotary and to talk to us about what they're doing with their 2-cent sale this year.
Well, as you know, we always have it the third Thursday of July. And of course, we didn't have it this year. So we're coming to you, see if you can help us advertise our online auction, which comes very soon. Right, Aaron?
Actually not an online auction. We're selling raffle tickets. And we have 5 great prizes this year. We have, do you want me to list them off, Heath, or is that kind of?
Go ahead. It's your time.
All right. So the first prize is $1,500 that was donated by 3 of our members in the Rotary Club. Second prize is a 2-night stay at an amazing bed and breakfast right downtown.
I have
don't
no
know if you've
clue
heard
which
of it,
one you're
called
talking about.
The Nellie Littlefield, and dinner by a famous selectman too. Third prize is 2 nights at any of the Hanson enterprises. So the Juniper Hill, the Meadow, I'm gonna say it wrong. One of the 3 locations that they have, and breakfast at Raspberries. We just had another prize, which was donated yesterday, which was some gold hoops from Panache Jewelry in Ogunquit, which are beautiful. And we also have a $250 gas card. So the tickets are $5. So our 2-cent sale is going to look very different than it did in the past, but due to the situation, we're not allowed to have hundreds of people in the Dunaway Center. So these tickets are being sold on our Facebook page as well as our website. And if you want to talk to any of the members, we can also take some cash for them as well.
Aaron, what is the website?
It is ogunquitmerotary.org.
I just wanted to remind everybody, since I'm the old man in Rotary, all the things that we have done for Ogunquit, and I kind of made a list. And we do the Christmas tree in the Cove. Of course, we have the garden in the Cove. We do the parades. We've sponsored a lot of money for Ogunquit Rotary, the Ogunquit Library. I think we built part of the door and the roof. And of course, we have the Kite Festival. And then we also have scholarships for students in the high school. So, if we don't get any money, we can't keep supporting these projects.
And one of the biggest things that we do actually is we purchase beach wheelchairs that we give to the town, which are used quite often. So that's one of the biggest ways that we fundraise for those pieces of equipment that are so important. Any questions?
We used to have a
Member
lot
Dolliver.
of people from the select board that were on our Rotary, so you're all invited to join, right, Aaron?
Right.
Select Member Dolliver.
Hi, Aaron. Hi, George.
Hi, Rick.
I'm looking at the that single sheet that's in our packet, and if you guys happen to have any of those and have any of the raffle tickets, I could take them and sell them at the bar.
So are you talking about the poster, Rick?
Yeah, it's a Ogunquit Rotary 2-cent sale, and then it's got the prizes with
Okay.
a little scan me down in the corner, or anything you guys could drop off. I mean, to bring humor into it, generally I have Kyle's Little League raffle tickets or a niece's Girl Scout cookies. Well, none of that stuff happened. So if you got me something that I could put on the wall, and then, a stack of X amount of tickets, I'll be more than happy to sell them and give you the cash.
Thank you, Rick. That's great. We're really trying to do this as virtual as we possibly can, just because of the passing along of tickets and pens and stuff. We decided this was a safer way, but I can certainly bring some posters and with the QR code, etc. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
I saw Select Member Wynn's hand up earlier.
I'm just, when George was speaking, and Aaron, they said they wanted the board to help. How would you like us to help? What would you need from us? Like exactly what would you need from us?
I think getting the word out is the biggest piece, is just letting people know, because it's a different situation this year. So we try to post 3 times a week on our Facebook page. So if you could like our Facebook page and share it, that would be really helpful.
Mhm.
And just getting the word about why this is so important that we raise this money for this year to continue helping the town of Ogunquit.
Just get the word around.
Select Member Daley.
First of all, I have to be honest. I'm ignorant of a lot of what the Rotary does. I've heard about them from many people over the last 10, 15, 20 years, from George, from Gordon Lewis, from other people. But if you don't mind, send me the date on your next meeting or next event. I'd love to attend to learn more about the Rotary.
Great.
And
Good.
secondly, George, you're not that old. You're young at heart, so.
Well, I'm now living in Durham, but I am still in Rotary. So we meet, I guess now we meet at the chamber, right, Aaron?
Yes, we meet the first and the third Friday at the chamber, and we're trying to do that with Zoom at the same time, because some people are not really ready to come to our meetings. So we're trying to accommodate both sides.
In full disclosure, John, you can come as my guest.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you both for joining us this evening and sharing about some of the work that you all do and what you're doing with the 2-cent sale this year. Very, it's an odd year for all of us, and sounds like you reinvented yourself to try to be as successful as possible. So thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the invitation.
Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thanks.
Okay, this moves us on to our addition on the agenda, which was the minutes for May 21st, the minutes for June 16th, and the minutes for June 30th. Is there any discussion before I ask for a motion of approval? Rick, I understand you're going to abstain from this vote. Is that correct? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes, select board meeting minutes for May 21st, June 16th, and June 30th of 2020?
So moved.
So moved by Select Member Wynn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Select Member Perry. Any further discussion? All right. Select Member Daley, how do you vote?
Yes.
Select Member Perry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Select Member Wynn, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I too am a yes vote. The motion passes 4-0 with Select Member Dolliver abstaining because he was not a select board member at the time. This now moves us on to 6.0 of our agenda, old business. And Pat, you are on for the first 2 items, 6.1 and 6.2. Do you want to give us some updates?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. We talked a little bit about this during the workshop, but the charter refers to boards, committees, and commissions, and they lump them all together in almost every reference throughout the charter. And we've received at least one inquiry asking, well, what's the difference between a board, a committee, and a commission? And I've put together a memo that tries to provide a little bit of background about that, but most in my research, I looked at other communities in Maine, other communities throughout the United States, and those are terms more of art than science. They're used interchangeably, and it's almost like you know it when you see it. But I do think the common thread for boards are more of a governing nature or a quasi-judicial nature. So our boards, the select board, planning board, zoning board of appeals, you're more independent. You've got governing authority. The quasi-judicial, they are not advisory boards to the select board. They are independent entities. Their actions stand alone and they can be appealed to court. But commissions and committees, those are advisory in nature. Those are creatures that the select board appoints for the most part, it with some exceptions, such as the Charter Commission or the Budget Review Committee. So those are both committees that are established by statute or by charter. And for the Budget Review Committee, as you know, the members are elected, but you appoint 2 alternates. For the Charter Commission, 6 members were elected, 3 were appointed by you. But the committees, which are the real workhorses, I would say, of our community and many others, and what you spend a lot of your time during your workshop discussing, those committees are advisory in nature. They're formed for a specific purpose to develop an area of expertise about a certain area that the select board needs assistance with, or that you can refer matters to, and they can report back to you. So I think, if you're trying to decide, well, do I want to be a member of a board, a committee, or commission? I think it's not what the name of it that you should be concerned about. It's what you do on that board, committee, or commission. And what we would like to do after you've had a chance to think about this is to update our website so that we can have more information, so that people do know about all the committees, what they do, when they meet, and so forth, and hopefully generate more interest by people to participate in town government. So I will circulate that to you so you can see it, and it's a very rough draft. And in some of my readings, very few communities have taken the time to actually define each of these entities, but most have not. So again, if that's something you wanted to do, we certainly could spend time on that. I personally think it's more important for us to pay attention to the work they're doing and to support them in that. So I hope that that is at least a little bit of progress on that matter. If anyone has any questions. Okay, great. Moving on to the next item, which is responding to questions. I think it's important for people to know that you'll always try to respond to questions as soon as possible. So questions that are raised at select board meetings, I believe by charter, I'm supposed to respond to them at the next select board meeting. So if I'm not doing that, please let me know. For email requests, and I think that the select board rule is within 3 business days, and I'm going to adopt that as my response time. I think it's important to recognize that there's a response, which is an acknowledgement that I have received your email. Being able to fully respond to your questions may take longer than that. So again, I think it's just a matter of people understanding that. And I think, I have had better success on some things than others, and it's obviously an area that I'm trying to improve upon. So, but I've got it out there. 3 business days is what the select board rule is for you all. And so I'm going to be in sync with you all for that. And then questions that are more multifaceted, that require more research or time from me or other staff, will obviously take longer. And I would try to explain that in my response. So questions or suggestions on that? Okay. Thank you.
Member Daley.
Pat, thank you so much for your honesty. I admit sometimes requests for emails, I go overwhelming, and sometimes you just have to respond, okay, I received it, but give me a week, give me a month, whatever. And so it's difficult. It puts you in a tough situation because you probably get way more emails than I get in my job, not in the government. So I appreciate you said that you can improve on it, because I know you get tons of emails. It's tough to keep up on it, and maybe that's something we can discuss in private on how we can help you. But thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Sean.
Any other questions or comments from select board members? Thank you, Pat. Appreciate those 2 updates.
Welcome.
6.3 on our agenda is we've been, as a board, discussing civility. And at our last meeting, we talked about some next steps. I do want to start off by saying that after our discussion at our last meeting, there was a member of the public who provided some information regarding an allegation of a select board member. And I want to acknowledge that I, as the chair of this board, have heard that individual's message. I do take it seriously, and I've reached out to that individual, as well as I believe this board has heard the allegation and is taking it seriously, and we are looking into it further. With that, our next steps that I had for continuing this discussion was there was conversations, Bob, we were hoping that you were going to be able to reach out to one of the Wessler. Steve Wessler was a consultant hired by the town to work with some community members around how we interact with each other more positively and keeping focus on town issues rather than people. And I think you were going to reach out to one of those groups to see if they were interested in or what their process might be for sharing some of the work that they've done.
I spoke with Mike, or Mike spoke, we spoke, and Mike said that he would be willing to speak to the board, but he's not willing to share the paper sheet or whatever that you and I received during that group discussion, but he's willing to speak about it on Zoom or to the board.
I would like to, just because I was a member of that group, I think Mike should reach out to the group members and ask for their take on whether or not they feel like the document's ready to be shared or not, so that we get a group consensus decision on whether they feel like it's ready or not.
Right. Well, that was just it. He didn't feel comfortable sharing the document for that reason. Would assuming that's what he meant when I spoke with him. But he'd be willing to talk about situation as far as the Wessler group goes.
Okay. I think what I'm suggesting is that either, and I guess I could do this as well, that somebody reach out to the full group to see. I think our ask at the last meeting was we would like to have that document shared with the full public, but certainly it is a group decision, and I certainly respect that.
Right. I think that was Mike's intention.
Okay. Select Member Daley?
I agree, it's probably a group decision, but it should be public. It's public information, the public paid for it. It's in the best interest of the public to learn what we learned and grow from what we learned. So hopefully, I understand where he's coming from, but please, we need to make it public. We have to. Thank you.
Select Member Perry?
The way I understand it is that was the exact intention, was to primarily keep it public and for a document not to come to us and not. So I think that is the topic of conversation here, is ensuring that it's fully public.
Right.
I just don't want the wrong message to be put out there. That's all.
And the group, may feel like it needs to still do some work on it, et cetera. So let's honor that. But I think if the group could be asked, then we can figure out how to move forward. Any other thoughts around next steps for as we consider civility moving forward? Select Member Dolliver?
I guess here's my concern. With Zoom, and is the Wessler group still meeting?
No.
So if the Wessler group isn't meeting and nobody's trying to finalize this document, would it be ever seen? If somebody's not ready to, some of you have seen it. So Lindsay and I haven't. She's shaking her head. I guess Heath and Bobby have. We talk about a document. I have no idea what anybody's talking about. It's a document that some people have seen and some haven't. I don't know where John is in the whole thing, but if the document is not ready to be shared publicly and the group isn't meeting anymore, when are we ever going to see it? Or if we're not going to see it, let's move on. And because there were two groups, and I don't know, I'm not sure what anybody's talking about, to be honest with you.
Sure. Select Member Daley, I appreciate those comments. I do think it was the intention of at least the first group that I was part of that developed this document we're discussing to continue meeting. There were plans to do so, and then COVID hit and there was a decision to hold off. So I do think the time is to reach back out to that group, but I think you raised some questions whether or not, they'll continue to meet or not. And but I agree, either we get an answer on this document and move forward with it one way or another. Select Member Perry.
We've mentioned this member twice by name now, and they're in the audience and raising their hand. And I think that because we've named them and they've raised their hand, it would be fair to let them speak on this subject. Would that be okay? I'd really like to hear from them.
Let me think on that just for a second. Select Member Nguyen, you had your hand raised.
I agree with Lindsay because that's the reason I mentioned it was who it was, because he was willing to share. But I think a big piece of this was there was a whole nother group of people that were meeting with Wessler, and that our intention was to try to match up and get together with that group and discuss. So this document was just kind of a starting point. It wasn't an all stop document. It was a moving document that we were working on. So it really wasn't, but we can I'd like to hear from,
Where I'm at is I would like Michael or me or you, Bob, to reach out to the full Wessler group to get a consensus from that group if they're ready for any discussion to happen in public. I think Select Member Dolliver raised a good point. We need to identify, is this group willing to move this? Our ask at our last meeting was for the document to move forward if the group agrees. So the group needs to determine whether or not they want that document to move forward, and that's the answer that we need. So that's where I'm at the moment. Select Member Dolliver.
I guess here's my deep down question. There were two groups. That's my understanding. Did those two groups ever meet together after the Wessler group? And who made the document?
There's not
Group
a document.
one, group two.
not a document.
Who made whatever it is we're talking
No.
about? Let me finish, Lindsay. I don't know. I think it's completely unfair that two of you have read whatever document we're talking about. I'm sitting here, have no idea. I don't even know what we're talking about. I wasn't part of the group and I wasn't part of a document. And now we want Mike to talk, who wants to share it, but has to talk to the other group, and the group isn't meeting. I mean, come on.
Okay, so Rick, just to
Rick.
clarify, there was two Wessler groups, as we've talked about, Group 1 and Group 2. Group 1 and Group 2 both met with consultant Steve Wessler 2 times. My understanding is after those meetings, Group 1 continued to meet. I know this because I was a part of that group, and we were meeting every other week, once a month. My understanding is Group 2 did not continue to meet. That's not where they were at in their process. Group 1 was continuing to meet to talk about some of the things that we had started to talk about with Steve Wessler, as well as other things that we wanted to talk about. There was a document drafted around communication, and there was a thinking that Group 1 had actually already reached out to Group 2 to come together and meet and share the document and come to some sort of consensus with a long-term plan of sharing it with the general public. Unfortunately, as that just got started, as Group 1 was reaching out to Group 2, COVID hit and a decision was made to put everything on hold. So where we're at this point is, I believe the select board is asking Group 1 to weigh in as to if they are willing to share the document. Great. If they're not, then we just want to know. And 2, then we can move on from there. Select Member Perry.
We have mentioned a member of the public's name 4 times now. and they have raised their hand. And when we do that, I think it is fair to let them speak, because typically speaking, we do not call out people that are members of the public without giving them an opportunity to at least talk about why they're being talked about.
Thank you for your comments, Select Member Perry. I've ruled that at this time, this is a discussion between the select board and not with the general public.
And in the future, we should not talk about members of the public by name.
I certainly agree. Thank you. Select Member Dolliver.
I just want it clear for the record. You and Bobby were part of group 1.
And me
Actually,
and
Okay,
Oh.
so Lindsay was part of group 1 too. So now 3 people and John.
And
yes,
John.
all 4 of us were part of group 1.
Okay, so all 4 of you met with 10, 11 other people in group 1, and all 4 of you have seen the document, but Lindsay says there is no document.
it's not the type of document that you are announcing it to be. It's a communication document on how we speak to each other.
Okay, and it was never shown to group 2.
I'm not sure, John. Sorry
I'm
for
Rick.
calling you John again.
John. That's okay.
I'm unsure, Rick. It may have been emailed as we were working on trying to bring the 2 groups together.
Okay, that's all. I know this is easy for you guys
I
because you were
understand.
in the meetings and you've all seen the document, but I want you to sit in my shoes. I quite frankly have no idea what anybody's talking about. And to Lindsay's point, I'm perfectly fine with Mike talking, and that's now the 5th time we brought it up. But to be honest with you, Bobby brought it up first. That's who he spoke to. So that's that's how it came in.
One person,
I'm
we
just going to
said-
finish my sentence. And
and we just said it
So-
5 times now.
so I have
And-
5
Okay.
select board members.
Chairman, Chair,
Yep, I would like to.
Whoa. I have the floor. You have 5 select board members. We have select board packets. We have everything. And 4 of you know exactly what you're talking about and have read the document. That's not transparency. I'm done.
Thank you for your comments, Rick.
Chair?
And I think the point was to ask for the document to be shared if that group was willing.
Chair,
Select Member Daley.
I'd be willing to share. Chair, I'd be willing to share with Rick because he's a selectman member of the document before we share with the public, because he should know because he's a selectman member. I'd be willing to share with him. It'd take me a couple days if I find it, but I will find it. If that's okay with you as chair.
No, it's not. I want to honor knowing that the group that met with Steve Lessler purposely has yet to share that document.
Okay.
All right. Sounds
Mr. Chair,
we're
Mr.
going in
Chair.
circles here. Excuse me, I have the floor. We are going in circles here. So it sounds like someone needs to reconnect with the group, group 1, to get a decision and then for us to know that decision. Bob, you were connecting with one of its members. Would you like to reach out to the full group or would you like me to?
I was asked by the chair last time to reach out to someone who was on the committee, and that's what I did. So I'm in agreement with you in that people keep calling it a document. It was a working group, a paper that was a working paper that we were working on, and it wasn't ready to be shared. It wasn't ready to be, but he was willing to talk about it. So, I mean, if I'd rather if you'd like to reach out, that'd be great.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Select Member Dolliver.
I just, again, for the record, what I'm hearing right now is Steve Wessler came to the town of Ogunquit and we had one big powwow, which I think we were all at. And then he met with each group twice. That's what the chair just said. So that's 5 meetings Wessler had with people in the town of Ogunquit. We spent $15,000 and I'm a select board member and I can't get a copy of what some people call a document and what others don't call a document. And so
Rick,
that's,
we are
I
going
just
to
want that
find,
off the record. Thank
Rick,
you.
we will find out whether or not the group is willing to share the document. I want to, I understand your thinking behind that, the town paid for our consultant. And I want to remind everyone that in addition to the meetings you mentioned, Steve Wessler did meet with every person in each group individually, sometimes twice. If not, I actually had 3 meetings with him over a period of time. So that was something else that we paid for. I understand your concerns, Rick. We'll get an answer one way or another, and then we'll figure out how to move on from there. Any other comments? I would like to move on.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree.
All right. Again, Select Member Dolliver, I just want to acknowledge that I do hear your concerns. Moving on to 7.0 on our agenda is new business. 7.1 is committee appointments, and we have the Historic Preservation Committee to consider. There is 1 member vacancy and 2 alternate vacancies. We have applicant Elaine Cooper, who is currently a de facto alternate. Her term technically expired on June 30th. And we have Sheldon Drucker, who is a new applicant who we interviewed earlier this evening. As we begin this discussion, I'd like to just remind the board that we do have our town attorney's opinion on whether or not it's appropriate for somebody to serve on both the Ogunquit Historic Preservation Committee and the Planning Board. Her opinion is it is not appropriate because the way our ordinance reads is that any decisions of the Ogunquit Historic Preservation Committee, those decisions can be appealed to the Planning Board. Just want to remind the board of the town attorney's opinion as we begin this discussion. Is there any discussion that we'd like to have before making a motion? Select Member Dolliver.
I did not have time to watch the planning board meeting, but somebody said today that Elaine did not want to be on the historical and she chose the planning board. I didn't hear it with my own ears.
I heard the same thing earlier today, and I did reach out to Elaine via email. And give me a second and I'll pull up her response. She would like to remain, if having to choose, I would like to remain on the planning board.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Any discussion before I entertain a motion? Okay, go ahead, Select Member Dolliver.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Sheldon Drucker to the position of member, term to expire June 30th, 2023.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Select Member Wynn. Is there any further discussion? All right, well, I'll call for a roll call vote. John Daly.
Yes.
Rick Dolliver.
Yes.
Lindsay Perry.
Yes.
And Robert Wynn.
Yes.
And I too am a yes vote. The motion passes 5-0. Are there any other motions for consideration for the Ogunquit Historic Preservation Committee this evening? Okay, hearing none, we will now move on to 7.2 on our agenda. This is a certification of ordinances to be included in the November 3, 2020 special town meeting warrant. They were in our packet. The information regarding these ordinance changes were in our packet. So Pat, the motion that we need is a certification, the motion to certify the ordinance changes. Is that correct?
Yes, to certify that the version that is before you is proper and ready for the warrant. Some people may not have been at the select board meeting yesterday. Our town attorney has reviewed both. She noticed that the subdivision ordinance needed to have a change regarding fines. That change has been made in the documents that you have before you. So you are certifying that those documents are accurate and ready to be on the town meeting warrant.
To clarify, Pat, when was the document, when was our packet updated, just to make sure with the correct version?
I would say it was around, I would say 3 o'clock today.
Okay, so the packet that's posted online is what we're voting on.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
Any discussion before I call for a motion? Select Member Perry.
Not the, I don't want to go in circles here, not the email packet that we have
Nope, because that would have been sent to us yesterday
yesterday.
before we made the change.
Yeah, I need to pull that up then. Sorry about that. I have
No
it.
worries. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, so page 90 of, well, is it page 9? No. I guess I'm on the same page as Lindsay. Is it page 90?
Page 90 is the actual motion that you're making in terms of certifying that these are worded properly for the voters to approve.
And this is the new one.
Correct.
With the language that the attorney provided at our meeting yesterday.
Correct.
Page 90. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know.
Pat, do you know what page number in the packet the changes on? Just let's make sure we all are on the same page.
That I do not know, because I do not have a copy of what you're looking at. But it was it was regarding fines. The wording that we originally had made it look like the fines were optional. The town attorney said the fines are required by statute. So it would be in the fine section, is what I would say. If it's any consolation, the code officer, Mary Ann Stacy, and the town attorney and Cheryl Emery all work together on this.
Anyone know where that change is?
No, I'm looking.
I believe it is page 121 under Article 8 Enforcement, 8.2. The old document said the recommended penalty. Is that where the change is?
In a letter C.
Mr. Chair, is that the one where it shall be punished by a fine of not more than 1,000? The recommended penalty described may institute.
I don't think that's what we're talking about.
Wish you could do like a search and find with these scanned in pages.
Do you want to table this to later in the meeting? I can try to get the code officer because I know he knows exactly what section it was.
I would like to just to ensure we're all on the same page.
Mhm.
Thank you, Pat. Okay. If that's okay with everyone, we'll come back to this item on our agenda. 7.3 and 7.4, the approval of our town meeting order as well as the warrant. There was a version sent to us this afternoon. but it was not uploaded to the public to my knowledge, and it still requires a bit more work. So I am asking the board to table 7.3 and 7.4 until till we can vote on a true final version that is ready for us to review and approve. I have a motion to table 7.3 and 7.4.
So moved.
I have a motion made by Select Member Perry. John, would you like to second?
Second.
Second by Select Member Daley. Any further discussion? All right. John Daley, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rick Dolliver, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lindsay Perry, how do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
And Bob Wynn, how do you vote?
Yes.
I too am a yes vote. The motion passes 5-0. Pat and I will get together and figure out next steps around finalizing these documents for our review and approval. This moves us to 7.5 on our agenda, the approval of the 2020-2021 tax commitment and overlay. Pat, I'll turn things over to you, and I believe we also have a guest in attendance to help us through this.
I am hoping. Karen Fortier, our assessor, should be on the meeting very soon if she is not already. In your packet is a memo from Karen giving you an overview of the various revenues and assessed values that we have this year compared to the prior year. This year, as you will recall, when we put the budget together, it was going to be on the basis of having a flat tax rate or $8. What is being presented to you is a tax commitment, which is the amount of taxes that we are authorized to raise and receive for the operations of the town government at a $8 tax rate, which is a 0 increase over last year. And Tom Orlando, do you see Karen Fortier anywhere? In case people have questions.
Looks like Karen's raised her hand, Tom.
That I just promoted her, so she should be able to participate in stuff.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
We can, and if Tom can let you be seen, that would be great.
Okay, there we go. Okay, well, all right, let me just get myself started here.
While you get ready, Karen, just a reminder to everybody, some people may not have met Karen Fortier, our assessor. She's with Municipal Resources, Inc. We've had a contracted assessor for the last several years. And so Karen is that person. And this is, I believe, the third year that she's made a presentation on our tax commitment. Karen also represents a number of other communities in this region. So she's got a good understanding about what's happening in other communities with respect to their values and their tax rates as well. So with that, Karen, if you want to just do an overview of this year's commitment, that'd be great. Everybody has your memo, and it was in the public packet as well.
Great, thank you, Pat. It's a pleasure to be speaking before you tonight. And we'll be talking again about the tax rate calculation. And I presented a couple of spreadsheets that I'll go through. And as I go through it, I'll be explaining that information. You'll see on the following two spreadsheets that I've provided the 2020-21 tax rate calculation with a comparison to the tax rate calculation of last year. And the second spreadsheet is a list of suggested tax rates and corresponding overlays. On the prior year comparison spreadsheet, you'll see that for the local taxable real estate, there is an approximately $12,500,000 increase. This is due to new construction, building permits, and cyclical reviews that we've done. Personal property showing a decrease of about $730,760. It's about a 6.83 decrease over last year. This is due in part to more businesses applying for the business equipment tax exempt program. In 2018, the Betty program was expanded to include retail businesses selling intangible goods and services. So we saw more of those businesses taking advantage of the program. The town's total taxable valuation base increased 0.81%, and this marks the third consecutive year of an increase in the percentage of growth over the previous year. The next thing is the homestead exemption. Just so you know, that's a state program where owners who complete an application and claim their property to be their primary residence in Maine for at least the past 12 months are granted a $25,000 reduction in their assessed value. The state reimburses the town 70% of the loss in revenue from this program. This exemption is an increase from $20,000 to $25,000 over last year. And additionally, the reimbursement amount increased from 62.5% to 70%. This increase in exemption value is the main reason for the 30.52% increase in the homestead exemption value and a 46.18% increase in the homestead reimbursement value over last year. So again, the Betty exemption value and the reimbursement value increased by 225.5% over last year. And as I mentioned before, that's due to more businesses qualifying and applying for the Betty program. The prior year comparison spreadsheet also shows the county appropriations increased by 0.47%. Municipal appropriations decreased by 2%. The school/education appropriations increased by 0.87%. So in total, appropriations actually decreased by $134,856,000. Municipal revenue sharing is expected to decrease this year by $8,000. It's about 50% less than last year. And other revenues decreased by about $230,688, or 5.92% over last year. So overall, revenues decreased by 6.10% over last year. So the net amount to be raised by the local property tax actually increased by $103,831, or 0.89% over last year. So a very small increase in general. And any questions about that so far? We can move into the overlay. The overlay relationship spreadsheet shows the suggested tax rate and the corresponding overlay. Just as a recap, the overlay is used to settle any abatements due to assessment errors that result in properties that are substantially overvalued, or that have inequitable assessments, or that have an illegal assessment. It also may cover poverty abatements. So for the fiscal year 2020-2021, the allowable tax rate range is $7.96 to $8.35. And the corresponding overlay range is from $8,538 to $584,032. So there's quite a spread there, or a range in the overlay that is allowable by the town. I've listed a range of appropriate tax rates and corresponding overlays. Let's see, and over the past 12 months preceding the April 1, 2020, the valuation date for the fiscal year 2021, the market in general has shown a trend of increasing sale prices and declining assessment to sales ratios. The certified ratio for fiscal year 2020-21 is 100%, and the quality rating remains in an acceptable range. However, the state's sales ratio analysis study completed last year indicates that an overall sales ratio to be at 93%. So if the market continues to increase, then the next year's certified ratio will likely be at 90% or slightly lower. So in consideration of past experience and current trends and a little bit of uncertainty about the future, it's my recommendation that the tax rate be at $8, which is the same tax rate as last year. And then the overlay for that tax rate is $67,564 actually. And at a tax rate of $8, the annual taxes for property assessed at $500,000 is $4,000 in taxes. And for every 1 penny increase in the tax rate, the tax on this assessment increases by $5. So again, the recommended tax rate is $8 with an overlay of $67,564.
Any questions for Karen? Select Member Daley.
I was hoping Rick would go first, but that's okay. Karen, thank you. And thank you so much. It sounds like you did tons of homework and I really appreciate it. I'm going to disagree with you on the recommended mill rate, but I really, really appreciate all the homework you did, all the thought you put into it. But Ogunquit has a great history. I agree with you. There's a lot of uncertainty. The next 12 months, 18, 24 months, there's a lot of uncertainty. But Ogunquit has been very predictable when it comes to tax collections. I mean, and it just is. It's just, I don't have to go into detail why. Everyone knows why. Ogunquit's very good with their collection rate. So I actually prefer a mill rate of 7.97. I think 8. Worst case, and it's, I guess, Karen, my question to you, worst case, if we do go at 7.97, worst case, what happens? We take money out of the undesignated fund balance to cover any shortages. Worst case scenario, right? Is that correct?
Whoops, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think Pat might be the best one to answer where that would come from.
If we say we didn't put, Pat, we didn't put enough aside and we had, people closing the house, they moved out of town, they didn't pay their taxes, whatever. The worst case scenario, we're short. Where do we get the money from? The fund balance, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first place is your overlay. That's the point of the overlay. If we used up all the overlay, the select board or the town meeting would have to authorize us using the fund balance. Yeah. I think, and not to interrupt your train of thought, but I mean, I think that the
thank you both.
Sure. I think that the uncertainty, I mean, we've always been very good. I mean, people in Ogunquit have always been very good about paying their taxes. I think the concern is that this budget is predicated on using more of our fund balance than we ever feel comfortable with. And then if we have taxpayers who are not able to pay on time, that will create a problem for us from a cash flow standpoint.
And I completely understand that, Pat, and I appreciate it. And you're completely right. I don't disagree with you at all. I just rather put the burden on the town than the taxpayers to cover that any uncertainty.
Okay. I'd also like to just add that at a tax rate of $7.97, that will leave you with an overlay of $23,295.26. And last year, we issued about $20,000 in abatements.
Thank you. That's good.
Select Member Dolliver.
Hi, Karen. Thank you. Mine was the complete opposite of John's, because I found the overlay of 2018 was 126,924. I couldn't find 19s. Do we know what the overlay amount was? You said we used 20,000, but what was the overlay amount?
So last year's overlay amount was $61,057.
$61,57. So I'm looking ahead, not till next year, but maybe the next 3 years. And I remember when the select board, the prior select board had discussed not raising the mill rate. And trying to keep it flat and using possibly up to half of the rainy day fund. And I just want, if I don't say it, I won't sleep well tonight. I'm against that because I foresee possibly some bad times coming ahead. And I don't want to use half of our rainy day fund. And then if you read the audit, you know, our credit, it's just a bad mix. So I forgot where I was going. Oh, and then hopefully the voters approve a land purchase, or at least some money for a land purchase. And at some point, all this stuff has to be paid for. So I get it. Nobody wants a tax increase, and I'm perfectly content. But I just want everybody to understand that you can't put all your eggs in one basket or wait 3 years. And the first time I ever talked to Karen, I really realized, I think it's important to tell the people, when you look at an 8.35, if you have a house that's assessed at 500,000, 8 is 4,000, like Karen said. 8.35 is $4,175. So your tax increase is $175 for a $500,000 home, but your overlay amount goes from 67,564 to 584,000. I just foresee some economic issues in the future for Ogunquit and maybe some people personally. And so while I hear John Daly trying to lower it 3 pennies, I'm definitely at the 8, and I'm not even sure and I know I'm going to get the calls, but everything costs money. And I surely don't want to see in 2 or 3 years from now that we have a significant increase. I always like things a little gradual. So that's my 2 cents. Karen, I appreciate it. It's an excellent report. It's just 2 years ago, we were at $126,000 overlay. Last year, we were at 61. I take it the other 41 goes back into the general fund. I just get nervous. I don't want to have a huge tax increase in 2 or 3 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Select Member Dolliver. Other questions?
All mine were answered.
Same for me. I have similar concerns to you, Rick, in the sense of I foresee and what I'm hearing, particularly from the business community, is while July and August were pretty good, it's not like it was great. And the fall is not as good as we had all hoped for. I'm worried that we're going to have some businesses making some tough decisions in particular, and what the fallout there is of residents, et cetera. We know it's all interconnected. At the same time, the voters did already approve for us to use our fund balance. So that decision has been made. I wasn't necessarily in 100% in favor of that, but that's the direction that we went and the voters approved. In addition, I think our revenue in parking, we've already hit the 100% of what we projected. So we know we're going to do even better there. So personally, I think I'm comfortable at the $8. Before I call for a motion, because this is the first time the public has heard us discuss this, I would like to ask if any member of the public would like to weigh in on this matter before we take a motion. If you're interested in commenting, please raise your hand. Tom Sellers.
Yeah, hi guys.
Tom, can you just introduce yourself officially?
Sure, Tom Sellers, Bourne Lane, member of the Budget Review Committee, And we took a really close look at this stuff in the Budget Review Committee when we considered the budget for fiscal 21. And we further considered it after the beginning of the fiscal year, when we were able to generate more data about where we stand. So a few data points. One, the tax collections in fiscal 20 were 96%, and the tax collections in fiscal 19 were 95%. So even though we had the pandemic, we did pretty well on our tax collections. That's probably because 83% of the property taxes in Ogunquit are paid by residents, not businesses. And given that we budgeted to take about 1.6 million or so from the rainy day fund, from the undesignated fund balance at an $8 tax rate, we should have plenty of room, because we had something on the order of $3.5 million in the undesignated fund balance at the end of fiscal 19. At the end of fiscal 20, we added another $906,000 to that. So we probably have somewhere around $4.4 million in the undesignated fund balance, which means that we would be using something on the order of 1/3 of the undesignated fund balance, not half, if we had an $8 tax rate. So on balance, it makes sense that we should do an $8 tax rate this year, see how our collections go in November, and then and then if we need to adjust next year in the budget for fiscal 22, we can do that. But I think we've got enough data to say that the $8 tax rate makes a lot of sense. And that was the decision of the Budget Review Committee and our recommendation to the Select Board. Thank you very much, and I appreciate having the opportunity to comment.
Tom, can you hang on for a second? When you're saying this was a recommendation to the Select Board, I just want to clarify that this was prior to, this was back in May, June, correct?
Correct. When we made our recommendation for the fiscal 21 budget. The fiscal 21 budget was based on an assumption of an $8
I understand.
tax.
Thank you, sir. Any other hands raised?
No other hands.
All right. Thank you all, and thank you, Tom, for your comments, as well as answering the question of when the Budget Review Committee had made their recommendation. Any further discussion? All right. Do I have a motion for approving the 2020-2021 tax commitment and overlay? And when you make the motion, you'll need to state the numbers, what you're motioning for. Or state the tax rate that you're asking us to approve. Bob Wynn?
I don't have the numbers in front of me. Let somebody else do it.
So last
Mr.
member
Chair?
Dolliver. Yep.
I'd like to make a motion that we set the 2021 mill rate at 8, which would create an overlay of $67,564, which equates to an assessed value of $8,444,500.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Select Member Perry, are you a second?
Yeah, second.
Thank you. All right. Any discussion? Pat, just because I don't have our budget right in front of us, when we put together our budget, is this $8,445,000 what we were estimating for revenue from taxes?
The tax commitment not to be raised from property taxes is on the prior year comparison, where we'd be raising the $11,737,434. Is that correct, Karen?
That is correct.
Just so everyone knows, because I asked Karen to the equates to assessed value column is not well understood. Um, So maybe we could take a minute to talk about that.
Yeah, so that middle column where it says equates to assessed value, that's the amount in assessed value that is equated to the tax rate that is at that tax rate and at that to generate that overlay amount. So you're generating an overlay amount of 67,564. That equates to how much in assessed value? That's 8.445 million. Does that make sense?
I know that.
So if I multiplied $8 times the 8.4 million, I'm going to come up with $67,000.
No, that doesn't make sense to me.
Sorry.
Excuse me, Karen, Mr. Chair. I think you divide it by 1,000. I think you take the 8,445,500, divide it by 1,000, times it by 8, and that equals 67. That's how you all figure out your.
Yeah, you can do it that way as well. So I multiplied it by 0.008, which is how I think about the mill rate.
Which will come up with the same.
But you come up with the same way if you divide it by 1,000. That's exactly right, Mr. Oliver.
And Mr. Chair, I learned this all from Karen when I was a select board member the first time, because we had such a problem with an overlay and I couldn't understand it. And we came back and visited it. And then, yes, I'm the crazy numbers guy. So I came home and I wanted to make sure I understood it. So she's spot on.
I understand. I think what I'm asking, and I know that, you know, what we put when we do a budget, it's sort of a separate process than when we determine this tax rate. I'm just trying to figure out, if we set this as our tax rate, do we generate enough revenue to cover what was in our budget? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yes. The answer is yes. And on that first spreadsheet where it's the prior year comparison, there's the column that says 2020-2021. That's everything to do with this year's budget. And so according to all of the information that was provided to me with regards to, you know, what your appropriations are, what are your bills and what's your revenues, this is the amount that needs to be raised, which is $11,737,434. And that amount will be raised at a tax rate of $8, and you will receive a 67,564 overlay.
Right. Okay, I'm following. Appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
Any other questions, discussion before I call for a vote? Okay, John Daly, how do you vote?
No.
Rick Oliver, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lindsay Perry, how do you vote?
I believe yes, but I feel like we've gone past the motion long enough that I need re-clarification of what the original motion was, if that's okay.
The motion on the table is the tax rate of $8, which generates an overlay of 67,564, which equates to an assessed value of $8,445,500.
Okay. Yes.
All right. And Robert Wynn, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I too am a yes vote. The motion passes 4-1 with John Daly dissenting. Thank you so much, Karen. Appreciate all your work. I appreciate that you summarize everything that you do in one spreadsheet. And I know that what you do is a heck of a lot more than what this is, but certainly appreciate you bringing it to this level for us.
Sure, my pleasure.
And
thank you, Karen.
And thank you, Pat, as well.
Oh, you're most welcome. Big thank you to Karen. A huge amount of work goes into this. I think it's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of coordination with the finance director and treasurer. So I appreciate everyone's taking the time and looking at the options that are before the taxpayers. So thank you. Thanks, Karen.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, this brings us to 7.6 on our agenda, which is a personnel investigation. I'm going to take a moment because I believe, if I understand correctly, some select board members would like to recuse themselves from this decision.
Mr. Chair, I'll recuse myself from this discussion.
Do you want to state anything further? Guess not. Anyone else?
I need to recuse myself, Mr. Chair.
Select member Nguyen would like to recuse themselves. I'm not going to call for a motion on this, assuming select member Perry and Daly are okay with this. All right. All right, and I too am in agreement. So just for the public to know, we're in a situation where we believe we need to investigate a personnel matter. Because it is a personnel matter, we cannot speak to the matter itself or the people involved. And so with that, and I am not going to be taking any public, or we are not going to be taking any public comment on this decision this evening. Is there any discussion that Select Member Perry or Select Member Daly would like to have before I call for a motion?
No, thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion to authorize the town attorney to seek and recommend an investigator to conduct an independent inquiry into a personnel matter?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Select Member Daly. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Select Member Perry. Any discussion before I call for a vote? All right. Select Member Daly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Select Member Perry, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I too am a yes vote. The motion passes 3-0 with Select Member Dolliver and Select Member Nguyen both recusing themselves from this vote. I want to give Select Member Dolliver and Select Member Nguyen an opportunity to come back to the table, and we'll move on to 8.0 as soon as they're back. Thank you very much. Looks like we're all back. Select Member Perry.
I know that you said you want to move on to 8.0, but were we revisiting one of the earlier numbers that Pat was going to get back to us with?
Thank you very much. We are supposed to be revisiting the certification. The 7.2 on our agenda, certification of ordinances. Pat, do we have a page number for where the change is located? If not, we can table this because we have to take up 7.3 and 7.4, and all of those can be taken up together.
If you would, that'd be great. I just released the code officer earlier this evening.
Okay.
After you did that, thank you.
Okay, so can I have a motion at this time to table 7.2 on our agenda? I have a motion made by Select Member Perry. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second made by Select Member Dolliver. Any discussion? John Daly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rick Dolliver, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lindsay Perry, how do you vote? Rob Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yeah.
And I too am a yes vote. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate you calling that back to my attention.
I didn't want to.
Hey, it is 7:30. That's what I just want to say. We better than 2 weeks ago, right? All right, we are now back at public comment again. So we welcome public comment and questions about agenda items and/or town-related matters. We ask that people keep comments brief and to the point, under 3 minutes, as well as that your comments be respectful of the community that we aspire. As I mentioned earlier, if you spoke earlier in the evening, we'd like you to be mindful that you've already utilized your public time and that you're not asked to speak again during public comment for this meeting. We also ask that if you have a complaint or concern, it would be most helpful if you also offer a solution or solutions. Please begin your comment by stating your name and your affiliation with Ogunquit, such as resident, taxpayer, voter, business owner, or state the town that you are from. It looks like we have a couple attendees with hands raised. Somebody who goes by MS, if you could state your name at the very beginning, would it be helpful?
Hey, good afternoon or good evening, everybody. This is Michael Scambati. I hope you're all having a good night. I wanted to just call to offer my assistance to the board in working with you all on this document. I'm sorry that it sort of went off the rails. I did talk with Bob, and I did share with him that I'd be more than happy to share the document, but also present the concept and ideas. My thought when I spoke to Bob was, we worked very hard on this, as some of you know that were part of the groups, and I actually authored the document. The document is just a Word document that I typed up. I bounced the ideas and concepts off the people that were part of the group. And I said, we really need some, something that we can share with everybody and say, hey, here's why we got together. Here's what we came up with. So it was really a document, words to live by for our group. And we were looking to share it with others. So our group 1 came up with the document. Everyone saw it that was part of the group. We talked about it. We wordsmithed it. Everybody was comfortable with the document. And, we were looking to move forward in having activities and doing different things to really role model and show that we were living by what it was we were looking to role play and show to the community. So I have that. I'd be more than happy to share it with all of you. And Heath, I would also be more than happy to reach out with the members of the group that actually stayed active members. We had one member that left, or maybe 2, but I'll reach out to every one of the people that were part of group 1 and make sure they're comfortable in sharing this. And anyone that wants to be part of the sharing is more than welcome to come forward. And the only caveat to the whole thing is, some people said, oh, well, we don't need a workshop. We don't need to be singing Kumbaya. And I thought to really make the most of the document that we really talked about the spirit of how it was created and what it was that we came up with. So I said, Bob, I'd be more than happy to share the document, give it to you, but I really would hate to see the document just read and then put in a folder and say, okay, we did that and check a box, but rather, hey, here's what we came up with. Here's why we did it. Do you think it's still needed? Group 2, we never did meet with. Our hope was to meet with group 2, but with COVID and everything that happened, that never took place. And I'm not sure how tightly group 2 stayed together or what they're currently doing. But I'd be more than happy, Keith, to take that off your plate and reach out to the group, and then let me know if you'd like to put it on the agenda or how you'd like to move forward. And I'll do whatever the board would like. I'm more than happy to help out. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and I appreciate the clarity around that you were willing to share the document, etc. I do appreciate your willingness to connect back with the group, and then if you want to let me know the final decision, and then I can add it to an upcoming select board meeting for everyone to see, and assuming that's the direction we go. Thank you. Amy Forbes.
Good evening. I'm happy to announce that tomorrow at the pickleball courts from 4 to 5:30, we're going to be hosting a group of kids, grades 5 through 8, who are interested in learning about pickleball for the next 5 Wednesdays. Bob and Cheryl from the Rotary and another couple, as well as myself, will be there. We're hoping that this is through the Ogunquit Parks and Rec, that we can get the kids out and about in the fresh air, and hopefully this little experiment will take off, and in the spring we can go forward having maybe 2-3 days a week where we have kids out of the pickleball court in the afternoons when they're less used.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy, for that update and information.
And everyone's welcome.
Thank you. Next up is Mary Ross, next up is Mary Ross.
Hi, it's Kirsten,
And this is Kirsten Ross. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And my address is Highland Avenue. I have a couple of procedural questions. I did ask a question a few meetings ago and you said you'd answer at the next meeting. I understand you all have had a lot on your plates, but I just hope that that won't get lost in the shuffle. So this is just a shout out to, I did have a question about procedure and when getting opinions from the attorney. But also I did email you, Heath, and maybe I missed something, but I've been following along with your rules and procedures. And have you actually adopted your new rules, or are you still, I mean, it was my understanding that to change the format of how you take public comment, it would require either suspending or amending the current rules as they exist. And I don't know if that's actually happened. And if it has, I apologize, but I have been trying to follow along and I may have missed a little bit in the shuffle. But again, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, I know you have my email address. I believe the select board answered all questions from prior meetings at our last meeting. But if there is something that we missed, if you wouldn't mind just emailing me the question, I think you said something about opinions from an attorney. As far as the select board rules go, I think I have responded to you. We have not adopted our rules yet. We've been working on that document. As chair, I have drafted the agenda and chair the meeting, and certainly any member can speak up if you feel like I'm not following the rules as you think we should be. And it looks like we don't have any more hands raised at this time. Okay, I'm going to move us on to 9.0 on our agenda, which is select board comments. Let's go. Bob Wynn, would you like to kick us off? Let's go the opposite order of how we do our roll call votes tonight.
Not a whole lot to say. Good meeting. Everybody stay safe. That's it.
Thank you, Bob.
Welcome.
Lindsay Perry.
Yeah, I have a couple of things to say. So I want to just say yesterday I thought was a really fantastic meeting. I felt like we all, I think we really talked things out in a really nice way. And I think that the decisions that were made were really great, but it wasn't just that. It was really the way that we worked together and talked things out. So I just want to say that I appreciate that. Something I don't appreciate is it's been called to my attention, actually to my family's attention. Some nice folks have stopped by to talk to my family and let them know that they think that my select board statements at the end of meetings are irrelevant and have nothing to do with the importance of what we do here, and that national issues have no place here. And I'd like to say thanks for letting us know that. My family appreciates that. But I disagree wholeheartedly. I think when the nation hurts, we all hurt. And I think that when we want to talk about unifying each other and civility and things like that, we need to remember that we don't just have an Ogunquit bubble. Everything impacts us, and we should be learning from everything beyond our bubble. And when people in our beautiful country are hurting or celebrating or anything in between, we should also be remembering that here. So I really hope that the folks that think that what I have to say is irrelevant at the end of meetings really takes a moment to reconsider that, because I really think that it's something that can bring us all together. And on that note, what I would like to continue to say for this meeting, because I've already said it before, please pray and hold dear in your hearts the folks on the West Coast that are burning to the ground right now. And I'm sorry again if somebody thinks that's irrelevant for me to talk about, but it's super important because I have friends and family that are there, and I bet a lot of you do too. So California and Washington and Oregon and all the surrounding states that have extremely poor air quality and are suffering and having people evacuate to your states, my heart is with you, and hopefully we're all in agreement here that Ogunquit stands with you. So please reach out to your friends, families, brothers, sisters out there and do what you can to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Select Member Dolliver.
All right. Norma Miller got laid to rest the other day. And I'll tell you, I talked to Brenda Goodale about it because I was in awe that I drove by the cemetery and I saw 2 or 3 people. And it just puts COVID into perspective that a lifelong, I think Norma, she was born in Ogunquit, and I forget, 1926 or something, born in Ogunquit. But she was laid to rest beside John Miller, an ex-selectman, or an old selectman, and her 2 boys. And nobody was there. Very few people were there. And it took me back a little bit. We lost another Ogunquit person, Norman Storrs. I really don't know him. I had seen him down off of Woodbury Lane a couple of times, but I just didn't recognize it. But, you know, sometimes during these times, the strangest things make me realize that just appreciate life. It's sometimes pretty long and sometimes pretty short. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Select Member Daley.
Rick, as you get older, you get more sentimental. We all do. I'm not you. We all get older. As we all get older, we get more sentimental, and people who die around us impact us more. It's sad, but it's life. But anyway, my only comment is thank you, Michael, during public input for your comment. I guess I'm in the minority when it comes to this board. When it comes to the meeting with Steve Wessler, the town paid for that document. We paid for that meeting. We generated a document because of that meeting. That should be public knowledge, period. It shouldn't be hidden as of today, as of September 15th. That document should have been public 6 months ago. Regardless of where it goes, who cares if it goes nowhere? Who cares if it gets filed away? But we paid for it as a town. We paid $15,000 for it. Why are we not sharing it? And again, maybe it's not time to some people's opinion, but there's nothing. We have nothing to hide. Everyone talks about transparency, but they don't follow through. Just share it, and say it's not a finished document yet. Say it's a work in progress, but share it. But to not share it is just not right. It's just not right. So anyway, but I'll go along with the board, and we'll wait till Michael Heath gets approval from all the people who attended this meeting that the town paid for, and we'll share it after that. At that point, I guess, and I'll be fine with that. It's not that big of a deal to me. It just seems backwards to me. But thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. One more comment, if you don't mind. Heath, you're doing a spectacular job. By the way, it's a tough job. I would never want it. Thank God I never had it. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm learning each meeting. And I know sometimes I'm starting to get a little bit forceful around how long we continue to debate some things. But that's because you also are in my ear if our meetings go till 11 o'clock at night. So trying to find the right balance as we move forward. I appreciate those of you who have also brought to my attention any rules or questions regarding our process. We're certainly still figuring out our way. But I just want to point out that no chair before me followed the rules to a T either. So in fact, I've kept the traditions of some of our past chairs and been ridiculed for even those things. So anyhow, but we're going to figure it out and move forward. John, to your point, all I'll add is I do think the document generated as part of the meetings with Steve Wessler, but it happened after or continued to be discussed after Steve Wessler ended his work with us. And I just feel like the group, I want to honor that. And I'm even taking a risk here because, I want to honor the group process, and the group had a process, and while we're sort of bringing it back to light as a select board and asking for it to be shared, I just want to honor that group process. I think it's important. I don't think necessarily people will stop it from being shared. I think it was just a matter of when was the right time. When did we feel like we were fully ready as a group? Lindsay Perry, I appreciate you addressing the concern that was brought to your family's attention. And I just want to say that personally, I value the things that you share and bring to this table, even if they are not necessarily at the local level, but more at a national level. And I lived in California for a couple of years, and actually the wildfires that happened a couple of years ago, the major ones in Napa Valley and Sonoma Valley, were one of the reasons why we made the decision to move back to Ogunquit, or back to Maine, back to southern Maine. And it's horrible to see what's happening and very concerning, and does have an impact on us. I read an article earlier this morning that Vermont is getting some of the smoke and whatnot as it crosses the country.
Where the
So,
tailpipe, New England. Yeah. Thanks, Heath. I appreciate that.
thank you all for who joined us tonight. Bob, I saw your hand raised. Would you like to add something?
Oh, thank you, Heath. I was just going to reiterate what you said, that once we, at the last meeting that we had with Steve Wexler, he gave everybody the option and asked, do you want to continue on as a group on your own? And basically that's what we did. We weren't part of the Steve Wexler thing anymore, really. We were a group that decided that we'd like to start on our own to see what we could do to help the community move forward. And maybe, we were talking about things that we could possibly do to bring people together, different groups of people together. So that document came out, or paper, I don't even call it a document, because I don't think we were all really set on actually, nobody really said, well, this is what we want. I know we had a discussion, and I don't think everybody agreed at one point. So it was basically just a group of us that decided, oh, well, we'll move forward and see what we can do in our community as a community group. So that was kind of the transition from Westler to, even though it was part of whatever it was, but he was no longer part of what we decided to do. So
Thank you,
that's just
Bob.
it.
And
I'm going to back you up a little bit. That's all.
no, I appreciate that. And I'm the one who brought whatever you want to call it, the document, the paper, whatever it's called, to light at our last regular meeting. And
Right.
I maybe shouldn't have before checking in with the group. And maybe that was something that I should have done before bringing it to a public setting like this.
Good discussion.
Any further items before we adjourn this evening? All right, I just want to point out that it is 7:47, so I'm pretty proud of myself at this point, pretty proud of us. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Select Member Perry. Bob, would you like to second?
Second.
Second by Select Member Nguyen. John Daly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rick Dolliver, how do you vote? Lindsay Perry.
Yes, thank you.
And Bob Nguyen.
Thank you. Yes.
And I too am a yes vote. The motion passes 5-0. Have a great evening, everyone.